Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. From the cold streets of upstate New York to the unforgiving terrain of combat zones, Elizabeth Bradley has walked through the fire and never flinched. She didn't just serve, she commanded respect, honor, and impact with every mission. As a combat and flight medic, Elizabeth carried the weight of life and death on her back, all while dealing with the scars left by war, loss, and the unseen aftermath of service. But instead of staying down, she built something bigger, a future for herself, her family, and the soldiers she continues to serve through powerful creative projects and veteran advocacy. Her legacy isn't just about surviving, it's about rising. With power, with pain, and with purpose. This episode is about fire, faith, and the fight to leave something meaningful behind. Elizabeth Bradley, welcome to Heroes Have Wings.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How you doing today?
Very good.
How you feeling right now?
Excited, I guess.
I'm excited too. It took us about, how long did it take us to make this happen?
I don't remember. A couple months. I think our schedules didn't really match up. And there was stuff going on.
Yeah, but we made it happen.
Yes.
All right, so let's get started. So we're going to start with quick hits, all right? Rapid fire, you pick one of the two options. If it's both, then it's both.
Okay.
Coffee, energy drinks.
Oh my God, both.
Really?
Really, I sometimes double fist. My heart's going to go out. I'm going to die right here. It's right here. No,
Okay.
no.
City life or country living?
City, but country to get away, for weekends or something.
Okay. Summer heat, winter cold?
I came down here from New York, but I'm going to have to say cold because, man, I can't handle the heat.
You're from upstate New York, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I hate cold, but I just really hate feeling like I'm melting.
So what's ideal temperature for you?
Northern California.
Okay. All right. Movies or books?
Movies.
Dog person or cat person?
I got both.
You love animals?
Dogs.
Okay. Love it, love it. Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Beach. What do you do in the mountains? No.
Hey, where's that place? Gatlinburg's pretty busy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's where I used to drill up. A lot of hikers like to walk around with slippers and they fall in the ravines and then we have to catch them. We'll get them.
Wake up early, stay up late.
Stay up late.
Action movies or comedies?
Both. Action, no. I like action, but I have to be in the mood. Sometimes I want to laugh.
Okay.
Action.
We all need a little bit of laughter once in a while.
Yeah.
Texting or calling?
Texting. Don't call me.
Really?
I'm a multitasker. I'm probably showering.
Love it. All right, so let's get started.
Right.
Where'd you grow up? Born and raised?
Okay, so born and raised is two different things, but it's New York. I was born in Brooklyn, in I think Fort Greene, Bedford Stuyvesant area, some close to where Biggie grew up for 6 months, and then I went to upstate New York. So I'm not from the streets that. I'm not lying trying to say I'm from there.
I'm glad you said that because the people from New York, they will check you. You never hey, you really from New York?
And I'm like, no.
I was talking to one of my friends about that yesterday, how people from New York love telling people they're from New York.
Yes, they do. We people at my high school, they're like, all you ever say is you were in the Army and you're from Brooklyn. And I'm like, I feel like I don't say that. But then other teachers were like, yeah, you do. You bring it up all the time.
Yeah, I dealt with that in the Army. It started so I'm from Connecticut, so so I was about an hour and a half from the city.
Oh, okay.
So I'm familiar with, New York, the whole tri-state area.
Mm-hmm.
And when I joined the Army, the New York people just stood out. Hey, yo, son, I'm from New York. You know how they do that. But I was used to that because that's where I was from. But I noticed a lot of people, when you would see people from New York, especially in the Army, they would, not pick on them, but, talk about their accent and the way their mannerisms. But I was used to that. How many siblings you had?
I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Okay. And your parents married?
They divorced when I was 10.
Okay. Now, when you say upstate New York, whereabouts? How close to Buffalo or?
I'm glad that you can bring up, okay, so like anyone that knows the state, well, I'm not talking about Manchester. I'm not talking about just an hour out. I'm talking about go up, keep going up, past some mountains and trees, get to about almost Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean.
Wow.
I when I was a very young kid, I lived very close to Fort Drum. If you know where Fort Drum is,
Yeah.
Fort Drum is like it has its own weather system. I
Mhm.
swear, it could be summer. You go there, it's winter. You're
Mhm.
like, I don't understand. It's July. Why
Yeah.
is it snowing right now? So yeah,
What made your family want to move up there?
ministry. My father is a minister, and he felt the need to go up there. Also, just to get away from the city where my family's from. Is not a very good area. I mean, now it's gentrified, but
Yeah.
before it was pretty. I mean, it's still there's some parts that are not great, but like my dad just didn't want us to get into that kind of stuff. He didn't
Yeah.
want us to get into drug dealing and gangs and stuff. So he was very big on leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and also we were just poor, and it's so hard to make any kind of money when you're in New York. My mom was like kind of pushed him in that direction, and then he said, instead of listening to my mom, he's like, oh, God told me to go up north. I'm like, I feel like it was mom, but okay, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we ended up there.
Yeah, I think you said it's being gentrified. I think every city in America right now is being gentrified. So it's something that we're just dealing with as a country.
Mm-hmm.
When you moved, how old were you when you moved up there? 6 months?
6 months.
And then you stayed your whole life there until you joined the Army?
Yeah.
How was it growing up in northern New York?
Okay, I say this a lot of times when people ask me, they think that I grew up in Alabama in the 1950s. It was very racist there,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean really racist. I just saw my sister in March in Brooklyn. We were hanging out and talking, and she was talking about how traumatized she was by like being bullied as bad, which is weird because she's like the most beautiful woman in the world. But when we were younger, she was always picked on about being ugly, and I was too, but like not as much as her. Like people really would be disgusting, and so like growing up in that area, we were bullied and bullied and bullied. Like the N word was like a everyday occurrence for us.
Mm.
Kind of had a lot of resentment towards my parents about that, just
Yeah.
because the city, we would have been around a lot of different culture. We would have had our cousins and our aunties and our uncles to be able to have that support and see people like us instead of living in an area where people treated us horribly. So that is something I had to move past and have some kind of peace, make peace with, because yeah.
Dealing with that, how do you think that helped you become the woman you are today? And being in the Army and dealing with, the adversity that was going to come up in your life and all the things that you were about to see. How do you think that dealing with that bullying and that insensitive nature of people, how do you think that helped you out?
I think, and I don't say this lightly, and it's not to flex or anything, but I think it made me tough, especially with basic training. Basic training was like a cakewalk for me. Like people were crying and stuff, and I'm just like, man, I got my face smashed into a locker when I was like in second grade. Like these drill sergeants have nothing. I would like kind of smile at them when they would be all like making fun of me because I'm like, okay, like you have no idea what I've been called like my whole life. So I was like, it made me tough enough that basic training was nothing for me. So by the time I got to AIT, I was like, and it did make me tough.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to stick up for myself, but not just stick up for myself. By the time I hit high school, I became like the bully of bullies, and I tried to do right by like these kids that didn't have a voice for themselves. And I started, because I always was strong, and I grew up wrestling my brother, so I used to, it was weird, I told someone a couple weeks ago about it, and I used to beat the crap out of bullies. Like I would give them exactly what they were giving to other people. It was a very weird thing to see. So I knew that. So going into the Army, it was like, mess with me. I will tell you that it did cost me with getting promoted.
Mm-hmm.
People like look like, what? You were an E5 all the way through? And I'm like, yeah, I have a mouth on me.
Yeah.
But I still stuck up for myself.
We'll get to that. And I agree with you. I remember growing up myself, I used to fight bullies because I just didn't, and even now, I just don't like bullies. I don't like people that pick on people. That just, it really irks the hell out of me. And I will say something. I'm not that person that's just going to sit back idly and watch things going on. I'm going to speak up. And whatever energy that brings me afterwards, I'm okay with that. Now, how was your relationship with your mom and dad growing up?
It wasn't good. My mom recently died, so I don't want to get this emotional already, but she died in January. So I'm trying to make peace with her.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't the greatest mom. And I make peace with my father, but he's a very stubborn old man.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's just like, even now, like I bought him a wheelchair and I'm like, Dad, you can't walk, and he just was like, I'm not old, and I'm like, you're 81. That can either be a privilege or you can go through hell. But like growing up with my dad, he was a very strict person, and he grew up with a very abusive father, so he didn't know how to deal with stuff. So both my parents were just like, ugh, they didn't protect us, so we protected ourselves. So me and my siblings were close.
Yeah.
Like
That was my next question. How's your relationship with your siblings?
we're all best friends, like big time. Like we all talk to each other all the time. Like we're so close that people think it's creepy. Like we'd just be like, I'll be like, oh, my brother just texted me, he's going poop, and they're like, why the heck do you know that? And I'm like, because I was wondering why he wasn't answering the phone, and I was mad at him, so I was texting him like, hurry up, answer the phone. And he's just like, well, I'm going, and I'm like, you could answer the phone and just put it on mute every time you needed to. And it's like my friends are like, ew, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, we are this because we went through hell together.
Yeah.
So,
and it's crazy because I'm real close with my siblings. There's there was 4 of us, but now there's 3 of us. One of them passed away. And I tell people, I tell parents especially, if you're gonna have children, have more than one, because children create this own ecosystem within the family, and they really take care of each other. It's something that my life wouldn't be where it's at today if it wasn't for my brother and my sister.
Yeah.
And I love them dearly. They both know that. We were chopping it up yesterday, and we're in a group message with my mom, and I was just thanking my mom for raising us the way she did. Because if you don't mind me asking, were you born in the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah, so we were born different. We were raised differently. And when I tell people, like, me and my siblings really took care of each other, that is a real thing. I mean, from fighting to feeding each other to, life's problems, all of that stuff. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I can see you are too. Go ahead, bring yourself.
No, I just like, is there a difference in like age, like a big difference?
So my oldest sister, she's 7 years older than me.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so she pretty much was like, not raising us because my mom was around, but she was the one always holding us down and making sure we did stuff, and we just did a lot of good stuff together. I love them too a lot. At what point did you realize you want to join the military?
It's the weirdest thing. It was a very knee-jerk reaction to a bad situation, and I just was like I was 23. I didn't join when I was 18, like a lot of people, which being in basic training was fun. Being around 18-year-olds was like, I was in college. I was in a bad situation with like my friends. We're all kind of trifling. Like, I just didn't like it. I lost my job because like the restaurant I was working at got bought by this bank, and so they were turning it into another like chapter of their bank. And we found out about it very like short term period. Like it was like a month. Like, oh, by the way, you're not gonna have a job. And it was the end of the semester. I had not been able to pay rent for like 2 months, so my landlord was getting on me. And I was walking by one day on campus, and this recruiter, which is still to this day is hilarious because I swear he was 7 foot. He had to be like that because I'm 5'9". I'm not short. So like I remember him standing next to me, and I was like kind of looking up, and I'm like, hi. And he's just like, would you like to pay for college? And I was like, yeah, you gonna pay for college for me? And I always joke around with people, so he was just like, yeah, well, the military can do it. And I'm like, no, you gonna pay for college? Like, I'll show you, I'll give you my, you write my checks and stuff. And he's just like, well, the Army can do that, I can't do that. And I was like, no, for real, really? And he's like, yes. And he started talking to me, and I was like, I have to go because I was like late for class, but I said, I need a place because I'm losing my apartment and I'm losing my job. So how fast can I get into basic training? And he was like, oh, well, if you pass everything and, we do everything what you got to do, then maybe in a month or 2 months or something like that. And I'm like, quicker, buddy. And then he was just like, I'll see as fast as I can do it. And then he gave me his card, and I was like, bye. And I went to class, and I was like looking at it. And then I just called him up, and I was just like, I'll do it. I mean, this is National Guard, right? And he's like, yeah, so it's not active duty. And he was like, no. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So that, and he like asked me what my major was in college, and I was social work, human services. So he didn't have anything for that. Like at the time, they didn't have any mental health. So then he randomly told me about medic. And I remember that I dated an EMT like a couple years ago, and I was like, this job seemed kind of cool. Like it was very like just like that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't anything like I want to be a soldier. It was like straight up like I'm gonna be homeless. I don't have a job. I can't pay for college anymore. And then this guy is just standing there.
Dang, that's crazy. That's crazy. How'd your family feel about you joining the military?
My dad's from Vietnam era,
Mm.
and my grandfather went to World War II, and I think my great grandfather was in World War One, or he was in something along those lines. I think World War One, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm like fourth generation.
Yeah, that's deep. Are you the only sibling to join the military?
Yeah, no one else would do that. No. My dad was like, he because of the whole Vietnam thing, he was not cool with it. My mom didn't, she didn't want her daughter to get hurt or anything, but like she was more like, yeah, my mom, even though we had a tumultuous relationship, when we got along, she was very much like strong women rule the world and stuff. So she kind of, on some level, was proud of me for like just doing that and taking care of myself because, that. I don't know if I'm like over answering this question. It's
No, you're
just
good.
more like my like my siblings were like, that's really cool. One of them, my oldest brother, who he's 7 years older than me, but he's like a dad figure in a way where we make fun of him because sometimes he'll say things to me and I'll be like, I'm in my 40s, right? Like, he'll be like, don't pick up strangers. Like, I'm a woman. I'm not gonna put a person in my car. Like, and he'll be like, well, I mean, I just don't know. So like, he was like, oh, you think you're tough though, and people always like have problem basic training. And he's like, remember one of our really good friends, Peter, he was, he joined the Marines, and it's really hard for him in boot camp. And I'm like, that's because Peter's a punk, like, so like, I mean, if he watches, he's gonna be like, hey, you're not always a punk. I'm sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
But like, just I was kind of treated that way. Like, you think you're tough because you gotta, like, I always had a mouth on me. Like I said, I used to beat up bullies and stuff. So people were like, basic training's gonna break you.
What made you join the National Guard, not active duty?
Because of that whole thing. I wasn't ready to like be away from everyone. Like, I just wanted an out right now. Like, it was like I was just right at that moment. I was in a bad situation, and I was like, I've always been a problem solver. So it's kind of like, I don't have family that has money. I don't have anyone that can help me. And a lot of times, even things like with my parents, that's why we have, we've had issues. If I'm stuck in a bad situation, my dad or my mom's gonna be like, well, you got yourself into it. Like, get yourself out. Like, maybe you do need to be on the streets. Like, why didn't you get a better job? Like, that's the way they handle it. So like, I'm alone. That's how I have to solve my problem. So I joined the National Guard because I didn't feel comfortable just going straight active duty. I will admit that if I could turn back time, I would probably went active duty.
Yeah. How fast did you leave from that interaction with that recruiter to being at basic? How fast was that?
Well, that's why sometimes I must have joined really fast, because I know that I joined in May of 2004. So that was the end of the semester. Like, I was straight up the end of the semester. But
Yeah.
I think I left for basic in July or
Okay.
the end of June. There was a point where I remember when I got off the plane, and then we met the drill sergeants, and they started like saying stuff like, don't eyeball me. I'm like, oh, what did I get myself involved in? Like, I remember just being like, oh no, I'm not going to handle this well. Like,
I remember
like,
that. You eyeballing me, soldier?
I was like, what is this? It reminded me of like some bully in high school just annoying me, and I know how I handled them. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have to shut my mouth when I don't want to.
Where'd you do basic at?
Relax in Jackson. Yeah.
Did you struggle at all, basic?
No. I mean, when I say no, I mean, like I said, I'm very tough. And like, I say it like that, and I don't mean, I'm not saying it like, I'm so awesome.
Yeah.
It's just, you see these people and you could tell they came from middle class families and they had like everything, and I'm not saying they didn't struggle, but they just had things, and they'd be in their information and they'd be crying. And you'd be looking at them like, what are you crying for? Like, what do you think you joined? Like, we are going to be protecting this country. What do you think? What kind of people are supposed to protect this country? So what are you doing here if like you can't handle getting screamed at?
Yeah.
Like, so it was a little dumb, but it was tough, but it was like expected.
So you get through basic. Any struggles?
I have really bad ankles, and I sprain my ankles all the time. And I would not be a profile person, so I would just shove those, because I don't know when you joined.
I joined in 99, July 21st, 1999.
Okay, so we're so you remember the combat boots, the black leather ones?
Oh, we had black leather, yeah.
Oh,
we had to shine our boots growing up.
Yes. And like pulling them on over like sprained ankles, and be like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I could do it. And then I'll just start walking, and people even used to be like, in the middle of the night, they're like, oh, we can always tell it's you, Bradley, because you walk with a limp. I'm like, yes. I'm not gonna. That was the only real problem. And I was afraid of heights. So when we had to do Victory Tower, I couldn't hide that. Like, I can usually tough everything out, but like having to rappel, like I was shaking so bad that like when I was holding the rope and I was trying to like talk to the drill sergeant, they were just like, "Hey, are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not."
It's
But
crazy because no matter how, stoic we are and how tough we may be, we all have that one thing that gets us all, right? I'm not going to say what mine is, but we all have that one thing that, man, when it happens, that softness comes out of us.
it's not softness for me. It's absolute wimpiness. Like, it is like, like if someone like, if I get on a ladder and somebody's like next to me, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they're just like, I'm walking by. And I'm like, but don't push me. And they're like, why would I push you? And I'm like, don't touch the ladder either. And they're just like, so, yeah, rappelling was very, very, very hard for me.
Did your parents show up to your basic graduation?
No.
Yeah, I can relate. None of my family showed up either. It's I always get on them now about it, like how important that stuff was. Being that soldier. My family never showed up to anything. I get it; they were working, and I ain't mad about it anymore. I said what I had to say, but how'd that make you feel?
It's something that I know is a deeper issue. It's definitely a deeper issue for me, even when it comes to relating to other people. It comes up with me when it comes to relationships, friendships, or romantic relationships. Like, I have an issue. I don't trust anyone will do anything for me. So like, I don't, like, I do everything myself. Like, I moved this week. I did it all myself. I'm like 44. I'm like, my back is broken. I'm okay. I couldn't get out of bed. I was like those zombies in Thriller trying to get out of bed today. But like, it does affect me, and no one comes to anything. Like, no one came to my college graduations, never came to any of that. No one came to when I came back from deployment too. Like, people just don't do that. Like, they don't think that way in my family. They do. We all love each other, but when you bring that up, it's one of those things that you either accept it or you just are bitter for the rest of your life about it. So I try to accept it because it won't. Like, because especially they kind of fight me back and be like, why does it have to be a guilt trip, Liz? Like, and I'm just like, because normal people, like, even in basic training, people made jokes that I never got mail.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I can relate to that, honestly. I think a lot of people don't know what they don't know, and they don't understand the impact that it has in people's lives. One of the best things I've encountered, and I think the Army figured this out from the Vietnam guys, they always had us do a welcome ceremony coming home. So this is active duty. We'd get off the plane at Fort Campbell. They put us in the hangar. When you walk in the hangar, there's a shit ton of people in there, like clapping, giving you a standing ovation, all that stuff. And but just the importance of that situation is something that I'll never forget, because I can't even wrap my mind around these Vietnam guys that came home to empty airports. And then on top of that, the people, shaming them for doing what they had to do, calling them baby killers, all the crazy shit these guys had to deal with. So the Army did figure that out, the active duty side. I don't know how it is National Guard. But I can relate. I mean, there were so many things I did, like, by myself. I didn't get the mail. I mean, I've been deployed 3 times, probably got 2 care packages. And that shit did leave a chip on my shoulder. But I'm starting to realize that there are people out there that truly, you just got to give them a chance, right? They will love you. It's okay to be vulnerable with them. And even my family, I don't hold it against them. Mm-hmm. At the time, they thought they were too busy. Mm-hmm. But now I'm the type of father that I ain't missing nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it is. I'm going to be there because I know how it feels to, not have that person in the seats. But, yeah, I understand your pain. When you left basic and went to AIT, how are you feeling?
Excited. I knew this was my place, like, because of that. Like, I knew I was meant to be this, like, be in the Army, to be a soldier, because basic was like, because basic showed me I could do this. When I was at AIT, I was excited because I was like, we're going to learn now about, I'm going to get to be a medic.
Yeah.
So, like, I get to learn more than just that. And I was proud of that, even in basic, when they're like, what is your MOS? I'm like, 68 whiskey. And I would be like, oh, I don't even know if it was. I think it was 91.
I think you're right, 68 whiskey.
Sometimes I don't remember that things did change. I'm pretty sure it was 68 whiskey, even back then. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was as well. When you get to, you did basic AIT, at no point you ever thought about becoming active? Because you seem like, to me, the type of person that would have made that decision to go active and stay that way.
I think I was going to. I think I remember something about that. Um, I just think that I had a lot of codependency issues.
Mm.
And there were still people back home that I was taking care of or wanting to help and not really thinking of myself and my future. Because, like I said, if I could go back in time, I probably would have done 12 years active duty. I don't think I would have done a full 20, but I would have done something like that because now that I'm in my 40s and I'm starting my whole entire, whatever, we'll get into that. But, like, I realize how young 40s is. And so, like, if I would have joined the 18 and did 12 years, I would be 30. 30's a baby. And I would have all that background.
You could have retired at 38 and shit. You still had your whole life ahead of you.
Exactly. I mean, so it could have been a 20-year thing. I do look back at that and regret it because I feel like the National Guard was very, especially because of the era, we weren't doing 1 week in a month. We were constantly having to deploy. So like it would be like they'd just be like giving us like annual training that really is like every couple months we're doing 3 weeks of training. So my jobs would be like, I thought you said this is 1 week in a month. Why are you leaving again? And so I felt like looking back, that was a mistake. I should have went active duty.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do remember thinking about it when I was in AIT.
Any struggles with AIT?
AIT was probably one of my favorite moments of my life. I had good friends there. We were all smart. None of us were like the crazy people. People do some whack ass things. Sorry if I'm cursing.
We cuss on this podcast.
Okay. They would do that crazy stuff, on the weekends. The drill sergeants would be like, when they march you, they'd make up their own cadences and it would be always about like something that happened. And so like, I'd be like, damn, like what is everybody doing? Like me and my friends, we'd go and work out even more. We were really big into that, but we did get crazy on the weekends. AIT was the best time because, and I look back at it now and I think it's also because I didn't have toxic people in my life. I had real friends. We were doing something real. We were smart. We took it seriously. We took our PT seriously. We took being a soldier seriously. And all of those people, as of now, are still excel in their lives. Like I know one of them is a physician assistant. I know one of them is OT and a nurse. Another one, she had to get out, but she's married and I think she moved back to Africa, but she like is doing, I think she's an entrepreneur or something like that. But like all of them like did excel in their life. I definitely picked the right group of girls to like hang out with.
That's good. How are you feeling knowing that you had to go back home?
I was excited to go back home. I graduated, I think in January. I think it was January 15th. So it's cold.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a shock because, being in the South and then having to go back to the cold was like,
And you did AIT in San Antonio?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. What guard unit were you a part of?
I was a part of a Charlie company, a medical company, but I was like closer to a sister company that was infantry. So I was the only female in that unit in that company, and it was very odd for a little bit, but then it got better.
So time frame, what was the year time frame when you got out of AIT?
I right on the cusp of 2005 because it was January. Like I said, I didn't think about it until just now. I remember thinking it was the 15th of January. So I joined in and I went in basic and AIT, and then when I graduated AIT, it was 2005.
I want to backtrack. What were you doing 9/11? I like to ask everybody that question.
I was in college.
Doing what? Just chilling, or because you're in New York when this happened too, so you're still far away from the city.
I thought my family was hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was going to class and I was definitely hungover, and I was like, kind of like, oh, as everybody keep talking about New York City being bombed, and they were like, God, watch the news, and I was just like, this is the worst headache in the world, and I like come into class and they're like, you don't have to be here, everybody can go home, and I was like, why? And then one of my friends was just like, they don't know if they're gonna continue hitting places, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And some idiot told me that New York City was blown up. So I was like, wait, what? And then I ran back home and I was talking to my friend. She was like, she knew I had family there. She's like, listen, not like it wasn't bad, but she was like, it was the Twin Towers. Like the whole New York City was not just blown up, like the whole place. But still, like, we were watching the news, and of course all of us were crying and stuff like that because it was horrible to see people.
Was any of your family affected by that situation in New York?
Yeah. My dad Um, some family members, they didn't die, but they were close enough to the place that they were affected as far as like just seeing it like personally, like I don't know if anyone knew anyone. I just know that it affected them pretty badly.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of my family, like aunties and uncles, like not them, but like cousins and stuff, joined.
So you leave AIT, you go back home. Help me understand what happens afterwards with a guard unit.
Oh, okay. This is interesting. Because I'm so bad with I was talking. I don't know exactly like what our units were called. Sometimes like I forget like what is like. I knew I was a part of Charlie Med in Buffalo, but I live 5 hours away from Buffalo, so I was with a sister unit that was infantry, and they just got back from Iraq. So like you do the 1 week in a month. You train, you come in on like a Friday night, and then you train Friday, and then you go home, and then you train Saturday, and then you train Sunday. And then, you get your, like usually you get your year-long schedule of your National Guard drills. And then you have annual training, which is 2 weeks during the summer. And those kind of switch around. Usually it's July or June. So that's how it works. But if a unit, which many units, especially in New York, were deploying a lot, things got hectic, very disorganized. And so like you would have like 3 weeks in October, and then you would have 3 weeks in April, and then you would have 3 weeks in July, because you were getting ready for a deployment that was not like you weren't even slotted for until 2 years. Like, but they would be getting you ready. And unfortunately, sometimes it would be like training that you've done 1,000,000 times, and you're just getting ridiculous, like irritated, because you're just like, okay, so if you guys have to check a box, why are we doing the Humvee rollover training for the 30th time? Like, like why do you not know that we already did this? So it'd be stuff like that, but still you would be doing like 3 annual trainings in a year. And since New York got deployed a lot, when I came back from AIT, I was getting ready for a deployment for 2 years. So I wasn't even doing 1 week in a month.
So what does a deployment look like for you guys in the National Guard?
So once you get slotted, so like we were going to be 2007, like towards the end of 2007, when I got back, I did like maybe about 6 months of regular 1 week in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it was like, well, we need to start training for the 2007 slot of deployment. So we did a bunch of annual training. And then for me, because I was up there as far as PT at that time, they wanted to put me through Warrior Leadership School. So they wanted to do that before they deployed me. And so I had to go to Fort Dixon, Jersey, and I went there. And they do that with a lot of people, because they're like trying to figure out how they want everyone to be in Afghanistan, because we knew we were going to Afghanistan. So they were like, okay, let's put some of these people in this training. Let's put some of these people in this training. Let's put some of these people in this training. And then anything else, we'll try to get people to volunteer for it. And because they needed like a stronger unit. I don't know how active duty is, but you probably are just a lot more trained. You're doing this stuff every day. And so National Guard, not so much. And so
active duty, we eat, sleep, shit Army. That is our life. That is it. There's a saying in the Army, you're a soldier 24 hours, 7 days a week, nonstop. We got to get permission to go on trips. I mean, everything. Our life is, it's close to being like in prison. I tell everyone there's only 2 places you get institutionalized, jail and in the military. And it's crazy. When I retired, it took me at least 6 months to 6 to 8 months to really realize that I could actually do whatever I want and not get permission from people. It was crazy.
That's kind of another reason why I didn't go active duty. A little bit of like, kind of don't really like people telling me what to do, but I still was jealous of it just because of like the places people get to be stationed. I have a lot of friends that are active duty because I went to so many training things and stuff. But anyway, so then you have to go to MOB, which is pretty much training. Don't ask me what MOB means. Don't know. I swear to God, the Army, that's where acronyms go to die.
Yeah.
It's just a graveyard of acronyms. Like the Army's just, they're always like, I don't even know, candy. We're going to do candy tomorrow. And you're like, what the hell does candy mean? And it will mean something.
Yeah.
It'll be like, C means this, A. And you're just like, what you just, like, it just always made me mad because I'm super dyslexic. So I also hate that because I'm like, I'm getting the letters switched around. So I'm like, we're doing
They're serious about acronyms in that. I've learned in the Army, being in there so long, that if the acronym does not sound good, they will change the complete name. They're serious about that. But how much training did you guys have to do before deployment? Is it, so for us, we had to recertify. like retrain. We had to go to certain locations.
Yeah,
We, that's the same thing with
that's
you
what I
guys.
mean with like sending you to schools.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why like they know 2 years ahead of time because they're trying to catch up with active duty. 1 week in a month, we're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing like we as a medic you do stuff, but there's like in mechanics and some of the people I did see do things. I felt like drill weekend was always kind of a little dumb. And I'm sorry if this is gonna offend people, but it's like it was like that's why they have to do 2 years of training before we go because it would be like everybody's got to get recertified. Everybody's got to go to this training. Everybody's got to go to this training. Then you go and they station you at like Fort Bragg or Fort Hood. And then you do 2 months of MOB or 3 months of MOB. And that is active duty training day in and day out every single day before you even go overseas because they need to get you actually ready.
So you guys have to do the training, then go to MOB, do that for MOB.
And it's like MOBE, and I have no clue what it means. Someone could correct me on that someday.
And then from there, how long is that training?
The MOB training?
Yeah.
Like it could be 2 to 3 months. When I went in 2007, I think it was 3 months.
3 months, and then they send you to the deployment.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys that are National Guard and Reserve, you guys have other jobs, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Your jobs are cool with you just leaving and...
Depends on what it is. A lot of people that I worked with were police officers, so it's kind of like that paramilitary. It's like they understand. Some of them get it to double dip, which was a little annoying hearing about that.
Yeah.
It's trying to find a boyfriend that way, get a husband like that. I'm like, you're double dipping? Let's make this work. Firefighters, they could double dip. A lot of them like pretty much were getting paid while they were overseas. So they were cool with it. But if you were like me, I was a loan officer my first time. So for my first deployment, they were like, bye, you're not making us money. They found a way, the loophole out of that whole, like, they just were just like, she's not available for to make sales. So, whatever. They said, oh, I have a job. And then when I came back, it was like, yeah, bye. So that kind of stuff happens. And also my boss was very annoyed because I needed to be making sales and I had to keep leaving for training.
What was your age when you found out you were going on your first deployment?
26, I think.
How'd you feel?
I was excited.
Did you know that who you were attached to? Were you with an infantry brigade or battalion, or who'd you go with on that first deployment?
I think we were definitely attached to a infantry brigade or battalion, and I'm so sorry if I'm getting this wrong, because I was again a part of Charlie Med, so we were a medical unit, and I pretty much think we fell under infantry, some kind of infantry brigade.
Yeah, you probably were.
Definitely.
Yeah, you were probably attached to an infantry brigade. But you were a medical battalion attached to that brigade. Yeah,
I'm so sorry. It's like keep thinking about it, and I'm like, man, I wish my memory, because I know that I ended up being tasked out with infantry guys, and they were Cav and they were scouts and there was a bunch of other people. I even worked with special forces. So like when I was on the FOB.
Where'd you go for your first deployment?
Afghanistan. Camp Phoenix is what it's called. It was like Kandahar, I think. Mm-hmm. Or is it Kabul? No, Kabul. I moved around.
I think Phoenix is in Kabul because I flew a lot in and out of that Camp Phoenix. It's
my second was sort of Kandahar.
Okay.
I moved around. I did not stay in one spot because I was in Herat too. And like I also did convoys. When they tasked me out to infantry, I was doing convoys. So we were going all over the country, like we weren't staying in one spot. And then there was those little mini FOBs. So like Phoenix, it was Kabul. And then I know that I went to Kandahar, I went to Delram, I went to Herat, and some other places.
So what was your overall mission on that first deployment?
I was a ground medic, so I support with infantry, with scouts. And when I first started, I was in Herat and I was working in a clinic. Mm-hmm. And there was some kind of mess up there. Not going to get into it because some of the people that were around in that time period claimed that things happened differently than they did. And I know that's not true, but it's one of those things where when your memory is better and you're just like, I'm done with trying to argue with you. We had to move because of some kind of whiny issue with a married couple. Mm-hmm. It was very stupid. Yeah. And so they moved us to Camp Phoenix. So then we went to Kabul. And so then we were at a clinic there. And I was like, this is like, they had us like, because we had a course due around the clock in the clinic. And so some people had overnights and then some people had like, daytime. Yeah. And I was like, overnight for a little bit. I hated it. It was boring as hell. And there was some word that a lot of the male medics that were going out with the infantry guys were not doing well. At one point, there was a rumor that one of the male medics had a pillow in his stomp bag. And they were like, are you serious? Like, what if these people really get hurt? But he didn't want to carry it. Because, I mean, it is about like 40, 50 pounds over all your other gear. So it's hard to carry that. But there were some male medics that were just screwing up.
Yeah.
So.
How soon into that deployment did you start doing the convoys and being attached to the infantry guys?
What happened was this guy, first sergeant, whatever. Everybody called him Mad Dog. I do not think that he liked being called Mad Dog, but it totally suited him. I don't care. He's stupid for not liking it. It sounds totally cool.
Yeah.
But he came into the clinic. He's like a big, like he reminded me of like a full blood pit bull that like fights. And he came into the clinic almost like busted through the door, and he's like, I'm tired of all this crap. All these medics, these men don't got balls. They're stupid. I don't care who you are. I don't care what's between your legs. I need a medic that knows how to do some shit. And like I was all like, me. And then like two other girls raised their hand. And I stood up, and he was like kind of circling around me, but I was like, I'm not going to let this guy intimidate me. So he's circling around me. He's like, hey, Bradley, you're not going to screw up or I'll break your jaw. And I was like, break my jaw. And then he was like, he just smiled at me, and he was like, all right, you'll do. And then he talked to the other two females, and so she got upset, and so she quit. And I was like, well, really? You know, like, I guess you don't have brothers. Like, I was like, I have 3 brothers, so I know. I was just like, I knock on doors when they were teenagers. Like, is it okay for me to open the door? Like, you know, I'm used to men.
But
so
it's crazy because in the Army, you actually have to do that. So if you go into an all-male tent and you're a female, you have to open the door and say female on the floor, female in the tent, or whatever. You have to announce yourself.
We do that too.
Yeah, same thing with men. If we go into a normally we don't, but if we had to go into an all-woman establishment, male on the floor, and this is just so we don't get, you know, anything mixed up or don't see anything inappropriately. So I'm surprised that she saw that.
She saw it because she probably didn't say anything.
Yeah.
It was stupid too because she made it such a big deal. Like I remember just like, and I'm all for women, you know, I stick up for my people. So like, I was just kind of like, yeah, girl, they're men. Like, who cares? Why didn't you just announce yourself? Like, that's not offensive to me, you know? But so, and then it made Mad Dog mad because he was just like, really? Like, you have a problem with this? And like, he asked me and the other female, like, are you guys gonna have a problem? I'm like, you're dudes, you're gross, we know it. Like we don't care. Like, you guys pee in your bottles and put it under your bed. Like, come on already. Like, throw it away at least. It was gross. So I mean, I 100% was excited because we get to go out, and I was all excited right up until the point where I did my first foot patrol, and that's when I realized that I wasn't as tough as I thought. When I like walked out, and I'm like, we're getting further from the FOB, and we're all by ourselves. And I remember training in Fort Drum and Bragg and Hood. There were trees that we could do cover and concealment, but in the desert, that's not the way it is. So my first foot patrol, I was literally like, like, you know, kind of.
That wake up call, like, yeah, this ain't this is for real.
Yeah, and lots of gunfire. When you start hearing the gunfire, you're just like, oh, yeah, this is for real.
What was your first mission like? Well, your first one where you actually had to do your job.
My first mission actually where I had to do my job was in the clinic. A Humvee hit some kids on accident. It was dark. The kids ran out on the road, and they didn't see them. I 100% don't blame them. But we had a little girl get hit. Her head was like skull cracked open.
Yeah.
She was alive. We got medevac. She actually survived. But the other girl was pretty messed up too. And both of them, the other girl was like 8, and the little girl that got her head cracked open was 5, and she was unconscious. And I'm assuming it was her sister, was like covered in blood, and she was freaking out. And like, man, the 8-year-olds, when they're freaking out, they are strong. So like trying to get this girl to like lay down on the bed that we had in the clinic was like impossible. And at one point they were just like, she's just covered in blood and she's still in her clothes, to try to cut her clothes off. And then the interpreter was like, no, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, so I was like, well, I'll put her in the shower with her clothes still on. And it was like, it was a catastrophe. I remember just like getting hit, punched, smacked in the face, and I'm trying to just get her under the water. I'm like at one point just having my hand on her face, pushing it under the water. We're trying to find all of her injuries um, under her clothes. And like when we're in full uniform, they're like, how do I know that you're a woman? So we had to braid our hair and not wear in a bun when we go out, pull our braid out and show them that we have long hair so that they would know. Um, People would figure it out. I always thought that was funny when people would figure it out because I'm 5'9" and I'm all in gear and stuff. But I talk,
Yeah.
like I talk like, and so I could see like little boys circling around me, when we would do foot patrols, and they all would be like looking at me, and then they all talk to each other, and then one of them would like push at me, and then the boy would go. Because they'd all be like, Misa, Misa. And they'd look at me and they'd be like, Mrs. And then I'd be like, I'd pull my ponytail out and be like, yes. And they'd get all excited. But yeah, so sorry, I went to the tangent. So that was my first where I had to take care of patients, and I was finding that frustrating. So when I did come back, I did do a lot of training with people. Like,
Yeah.
we need to do more in hospital training for National Guard, because that was not cool seeing a 5-year-old's brain.
Yeah.
Like, and a little girl, fighting me covered in blood. She doesn't speak any English, and the interpreter didn't speak hers. Like, I think she was speaking Pashto and he knew Dari. And so it was just like so messed up. And so we couldn't like communicate very well, and it was just horrifying. And it was also like kind of like, it was overnight, so we're just all watching TV, and then these people come in, and the guy that brought them in just kind of threw her on the bed and then walked out, and we're like, hey, you come back, like what happened? He didn't care. Like, he didn't care. I don't know if he was the father. I don't know what he was.
Yeah, they don't. I was telling my friend this. When you go to Afghanistan, I think a lot of, and I don't say this in a bad place, so please don't take it that way. I think a lot of women don't understand what other women are going through in other countries and the level that they're going through. I mean, this just happened recently, probably a month ago, where the Taliban decided that the women can no longer go to school. And when I talk about the things that you see over there and how these women are treated, it is unfathomable that in 2025, I don't know what's going on here now, but when I was there in 2013, it's still going on. And just women don't have rights over there, none. They're not even treated like human beings. So I think that's something that when you say that that man walked in there, threw the baby on the table and bounced, they don't care about them kids. And it's unfortunate, and it's something that we don't deal with here in America, but it's things that it still goes on to this day. And not much we could do about it, because we have to respect how other countries govern themselves, right? We have to. I mean, that's just the way of the world. But what is one of your most memorable foot patrols in that deployment?
We went to this one place. Actually, it's in a magazine, and there's a picture of the Syracuse National Guard Museum. Went to this place. We were walking around, and we would like give away stuff. We were always having conversations with for intel about whatever. Sometimes I got irritated because I swear to God, every time it was like a white Toyota Corolla might be a V-bid, and it would just be like, really? Everyone's driving white Toyota Corollas. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, is it intel? Let's just drop the intel part. Like, it's that's information.
Correct. That's what happened when we shifted the coin. Trying to fight in that type of situation is so hard, because you really don't know who the enemy is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who the friends are. You know who friendly is, and it's so hard because all you really have is human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We could get the cameras. I think a lot of people don't understand. Number one, if you have cameras and they don't have voice, or you're too far away to get the voice, the sound, now you still have to make that interpretation for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So human intel, even though it's probably some of the unreliable, it's very unreliable sometimes. Sometimes it's all you got, right? So I get it. I mean, that vagueness, and they're leaving all clues out, or whatever you want to call them. They're leaving that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, so we ended up stopping at this place called the Coochie Tribe. That name's weird. And they lived in landfills. Really makes you realize how good we have it here in America. Like, it's like you're living in a landfill. That's no. Why would you just say like that? The trash right there. Let me live in that. I don't know. But they made little huts and stuff like that. And so once they heard I was a medic, it was just like, I got this problem. And they like lift up their shirt, and their like bones are broken, and their bones are sticking like out, but it was like probably from a couple of years ago. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do? Like, you either need surgery to move that back in or live the way you've been living for 2 years. So everybody's coming at you. And then Mad Dog comes over to me, dragging this dude behind him, and it's a local, and he's got his face all messed up and blood and skin peeled off his forehead, and he's just like, take care of him, and he throws him at me. And like, I don't know if you were like interacted a lot. Afghan like grown men are like 80 pounds.
They're tiny.
Like, they're like, you know, like you could catch them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so like I'm like, what happened to him? And he looks at me and he's like, well, we just stopped him from beating up this woman with a brick. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, wait, so then what did, and then he just looked at me. He's like, he was beating up a woman with a brick. I'm like, got it. So I'm like taking care of him. He tries to start fighting me. He's like trying to hit me in the face. And so I end up putting flexi cups on him and just wrapping up his head. And then I'm like, wait. And I don't know how my brain just was fried or something. I'm like, where's the woman? And so everyone's like, what? And I'm like, the woman that was beat up with a brick. Like, where is she? I don't care about this guy. So they're just like, well, we don't know. She ran away. She was wearing a full burqa.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like, shit. Like, how am I? So I like, I'm going to every hut. Like, I'm literally, and I feel like a giant because I got all my gear and I'm coming up into every hut, and all these people are so little, and they, you know how they squat when they sit.
Yeah.
So everyone's squatting near like little fires in their little hut, and I'm like coming in like this ginormous little like, you know, thing like, rah! And I'm all like, where's the woman? None of you know English. This is crazy. So I had to do the charades, and so I was like, burqa, man with brick.
You didn't have those. You didn't have the pointy talkie cards.
Nope. And plus, where is the pointy talkie for brick and woman in the
Yeah.
burqa? So I'm doing the charades, and everybody's like, huh? And so then I go into this one hut. I think it was like the fifth hut, and I'm explaining it, and then I'm like, brick, and then I'm like, ah! And this guy goes, ah, and then he points over in the corner, and there's this woman in a burqa just covered in blood. I'm like, thank God. Like, and I go up to her. She would not let me like lift up anything, so I took partially my helmet to show her my ponytail, and I was like, woman, girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like with one of the other like guys. He was, oh, what is it called? Like, my memory's so bad. What do we, when we medics train you guys to do something, combat lifesaver?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Combat lifesaver.
CLS.
Yeah.
CLS. So he was CLS with me, and he had his bag and stuff, and then like, it was just bad. Like, I was like, woman, and he's like, turn away, and then I'm keep giving more options of body. So I even drew something. We didn't have the pointy talkies. I swear, I think we got them in the beginning, but then we didn't have them anymore. So I was trying to say, I am that. And so then she finally, like, the guy stood a little bit up, and we put her burqa over him so that she could have like a little tent thing,
Yeah.
so I could see her body. And she needed to go to the hospital, but she refused. Like, I even told her, like, come with me. I put her burqa right. I'm like, come with me. She's no. So I ended up bandaging her up as much as I possibly can. There's all the things, like, I mean, a lot of it's probably broken ribs and some probably busted face up, but you can see some of these people in the Coochie tribe that, like, they were definitely beat up. They were probably even sometimes shrapnel, because you'd see scars that were clearly no one gave them medical attention.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what her situation was. And then after I showed her how to use gauze and wrap up her legs and parts of her body, and then I just gave her all this extra stuff. Like, I went back to my truck and I brought her extra stuff and I showed her. And then they, you know, I mean, her burqa was already down. And then we had an interpreter that was helping us, but he was like going with Mad Dog to everything because they were still trying to find out intel. And so then I finally got a chance to get him to come with me, and he went into the hut and he explained to her how to use the bandages better, and then explained like where we were and that they can come to our base and go to the clinic if things get bad. And then I had to explain to him what an infection is. And I said, like, fever, like she's really, really hot. Someone check on her if it gets to a point where she's not talking right and she doesn't seem like she seems confused.
Yeah.
Like, I had to like do all that with the interpreter. She would not come with me to the hospital. She would not. And
She probably didn't want to go because she knew it was going to happen when she got back.
well, yes, and that was a big thing because later on that same day I took care of a kid, and these other kids were throwing rocks at her for being near the American soldiers, and then she kept crying. And then I asked the interpreter, like, he finally came near me, and I said, hey, what are those kids saying? And they said, they're saying the American soldiers are going to eat her.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to bring her back to our base and we're going to eat her. And so I said, tell her that that's not going to happen. So there's a picture of me in the museum where I get on my knees and I'm wrapping up her bandages on her feet. And it's a really sweet moment because, well, there's two reasons why. It's a really sweet moment because I'm asking someone for help and I'm saying, can somebody please help me? I need to wrap this up and I need to hold both these bandages. I need extra hands. And no one's listening to me. And that beautiful thing about body language and someone trying to understand, I was holding and I was like, I can't tape this up until I get another hand. And all of a sudden I felt her hand. And I looked up at her and she was smiling at me and she was holding her own bandage. And then I was just like, thank you. And so then and then I was like, okay, now this one. And then she put her hands on it and then I could continue to wrap it because there was so much going on. Like I said, the Coochie tribe was definitely one of those people that the group, they did not want help, but they wanted help. And all of them had so many injuries, like past and like present. And there was so much to do. And there was only me and another medic and then like 3 CLS. And so, like, that's all we had. And so everyone was so busy. And then Mad Dog, the first sergeant, he was walking around trying to get intel. He didn't really want to do the medical part of it. I'm not saying, like, in a negative way, but I think that he was more like, we need to find information. I feel like that's our mission. And, like, for me, it was like, well, if these people are this bad off, let's help them. And so that was my most memorable patrol because a lot of times when you come home, because it's not as bad as Vietnam, but when you come home, sometimes people are like, you were over there. Don't you think you shouldn't be? Like, why can't we just mind our own business? And did you just kill a lot of people?
Yeah,
you know? And so I would talk to them about, like, we went into this tribe, like, all of them needed medical help, and we were, like, helping them.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of ignorance around that. And it's going back to the whole thing we're talking about bullies, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you idly stand by and watch certain things happen, I think that makes you just as wrong as the people that are doing what's wrong, right? So I think at some point, I'm not saying it's America's responsibility, but we cannot idly sit by and watch certain things happen because it does create safe havens for terrorists and all these other things. We may not feel it now, but we'll feel it later. So I think everything is connected to everything some way. And I think a lot of people need to get out of that. And that big thing about, did you go over there and kill people? I think a lot of civilians are unaware of what really goes on. And not all of us, that's just a small component of being in combat, the killing aspect, right? There's a lot of, we have to go over there and we talked about it, coin. We have to change people's impression, let them know we're not there to harm them, we're there to help. So there's a lot going on, but people are only focused on the bad stuff, like always.
But is it the bad stuff? I mean, because I was talking about this to someone one day, and I was talking to a person at work, and I was just saying, because I was talking about, like, what if we had a civil war? And I'm not going to get into political things, but, like, I was just saying, hypothetically. And I was like, who would you trust? Who would you not? It's like, I'm a big fan of Walking Dead because I like the psychological aspect of it. And I'm like, and he said, I would appeal to their humanity. And I just started laughing. And he was like, what's so funny? I'm like, humanity's dark. Like, do you think that you could have talked to Hitler?
Yeah.
Like, do you think you could have changed his mind? You know, and so, like, I really respected in Walking Dead Rick because he came to a point where it was just like, who are you? What are you capable of? And I'll shoot you. Or Harriet Tubman, you're going to screw up us trying to escape. I'm going to shoot you. Like, we don't have time for this crap.
Correct.
So I don't believe that being overseas and helping people and then having to kill if you have to is a bad thing. And I think that people that live in that reality are just stupid. Like, they don't understand humanity.
Yeah.
They just need to take a psychology class on human nature and understand that some people are bad. Like that Jeffrey Dahmer series where he literally said, I would have kept killing if people didn't arrest me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was openly honest about it. It's like, you think that everyone's just can be talked to? Like, no, there's some people that are bad, and if you have to kill, you're not going to.
Correct. I think you got to do what you got to do. I would say that.
Yeah.
And it's just a necessary evil.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. What was your biggest takeaway from that first deployment?
We lost a lot of people. God, there was so much.
And this is 2008, right?
Yep, it went into 2008, almost 2009. My deployment, I think, was 15 months. It wasn't a year. Because I think that in the beginning, I don't know when your first tour was, but they were always longer than a year. And then I think they started realizing they needed to shorten them. Because now I know that most people do a year. And I was like, yeah, it's weird. My first deployment was not. It was over that.
When did you get there in 2008?
I think we got there in 2007, or maybe the MOB was 2007, and then we got there in 2008. It was beginning of the year, or it was winter time.
Yeah, I asked because I got there 2008 in January, and then I left in December. So I was
Where
there.
did you go?
I was in Bagram, but I was medevac. I was in medevac. I was a part of the GSAB, so I pretty much flew everywhere. I've been to Phoenix. I've been all over RC East in
Phoenix, okay.
Afghanistan. I've been all over that place.
You probably took care of some of our patients then, because
Yeah.
like we definitely were there in 2008. I just don't remember what part, but then we definitely went. I mean, because we had Camp Phoenix, if you remember the landing zone.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know if you remember it that well, but like there was a track because I used to run that track.
Yeah.
And so like I remember that people would be like, get off the track, like medevac's coming, and so it was kind of like, oh, okay. And you guys didn't come a lot we didn't have like a lot of injuries.
Yeah, that wasn't
a big spot that you
wasn't
guys
a big
went.
spot at all.
You guys did pick up that girl, the little girl that got her head cracked open.
Mm-hmm.
You did pick up her and her sister. I don't know, obviously, if it was you, but you did pick up her and her sister. I remember that because I do remember hearing back about that she lived.
Yeah.
Both of them did, but my biggest takeaway from that was pretty much just war in general. Life is precious. I had a hard time with coming home with I remember I was watching Final Destination, whatever amount was 2009. Final Destination 20th, I don't know, whatever, but like people were laughing at all the people getting killed by weird things, and I was in the movie theater and I actually threw popcorn at everyone and I said like, like death isn't effing funny.
Yeah.
And my brother was just like looked at me and he's like, you want to leave? I'm like, yes. And then I left and he was just like, what's going on? And I remember seeing the Da Vinci Code, or it was the second one or something, where the guy came in, he just started shooting people. And I remember I could feel every hit of him shooting people. And I was just kind of like just doing this. And I remember just turning off the TV and I was like, oh my God. And like I was trying to explain like those people that are like fake dying in this movie. Like I've seen people die like that. They had a whole life and then someone just ended it with a bullet. And so we lost a lot of people in our New York deployment because it was specifically New York State.
2008, just to add to that, 2008 was a rough year in RC East. I know talking to my buddies and my friends, RC South 2012, 2010 and 11 was rough, but 2008, I mean, that's when we're dealing with the Konar, the Korengal.
I feel like you went both times around the time, like you did 3 tours. I did 2 tours and then a statewide tour, but like we went around the same time because I was in 2000. My second tour was in 2012 through 2013.
Yeah, I was in Afghanistan 2012, 13 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were in Dwyer.
Dwyer, where's Dwyer at? That's down south though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Jalalabad then. So I was in RC, so I was out by the Konar province.
Okay, because then we also went to Dalaram and then we were in Shukbani.
Okay.
Shukbani was small. That was a Marine base.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I just find it fascinating is just because I'm like, wait, you actually were in the same, but you were active duty, because I mean, like we were getting stationed different places. They were moving us around. We had like a whole rotation that we did with like 4 different FOBs, and that was for National Guard.
We were actually in 2013 when we left in March. Well, in February, we were actually replaced by National Guard Aviation Unit in Jalalabad. They're the ones who replaced us. So, but going back to what you're saying, I want to ask you. With that episode in the movie theater, you watching that Da Vinci Code movie, did you start realizing that combat experience changed your life?
Yes-ish. I knew it did, but I was blinded. Both tours, unfortunately. But yeah, like, I mean, I had some issues with being blinded by them.
When you say blinded, can you help me understand that a little bit more?
So I had a boyfriend that deployed with me in my first deployment, my first tour, and we came back and we bought a house together, and he was not a supportive person, and he was also very sexist. He just didn't think I did anything. And so anytime I had problems, he would just kind of fluff it off and roll his eyes and be like, women didn't even do anything, you were at a clinic. And I was like, but I wasn't. And they, oh yeah, a couple of times you went out with infantry. I'm like, no, every day. Like, it was like I was kind of fighting with him a lot.
What did he do in the Army?
He was a medic too, and he was actually with Special Forces. He was on a base, and he did see some crap, but he was one of those kind of people that shut down, wouldn't talk about it. He just overworked himself at home, and he wasn't around. Like, I had friends that never met him, and they would kind of make jokes that I had an imaginary boyfriend, because they're just like they'd come to my house, and they're just like, so where is he now? You know, and I'm like, on his third job. I don't know what he's doing. And so, like, I was blinded by the fact that I was having such a complicated relationship that I wasn't even noticing that a lot of it had to do with both of us having problems with combat. And it wasn't until retrospect that I really the whole hindsight kind of thing, where I was like, that must have been what was going on, because I would have issues with him. I mean, I was like one of those people that I like, when I see it now, I feel so bad, like where you get into a fight with someone so much that you're like crying, and you're like, and I would just be walking down the sidewalk crying my ass off, like just, and I feel like I wouldn't have reacted that way if it wasn't for combat. But it was like, I thought it was just me and him having a bad fight. But one time at a gym, I did walk out the door, the wrong door, and it was like this alarm goes off, and it's like, "Wah!" And it was so loud, I dropped to my knees, and I started screaming, "My God, stop!" And I was actually pulling my hair.
Damn.
And when they turned it off, I'm not joking, it was like I got up like I was just Mrs. Sunshine, and I was like, "Thank you." And I just walked out, and everyone was staring at me like, because I straight up was fine once it stopped. But it was just so loud, and I just remember getting attacked. You had to get in the bunkers when you're getting attacked, and I just wanted it to stop. Another time I came out of a Target, and there was a bag next to my car. Just a bag. And I did a whole entire check. Like, I went around in circles staring at it. And I was standing there for a while, and this guy walked by me, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?" And I was like, "Who put that bag there?" And this guy looked at me like, "What do you mean? It's trash." And I'm like, "Is it?" And then he walked by, and I was like, "Oh my God, Liz." And then I just walked over, and I went and kind of took it with my foot and moved it over. And then as I was driving away, I could feel my body tightening up.
Yeah.
Just to be like, was that what it was? And when I reached out to some of my friends that I deployed with, and we were having conversations about it, I told them about it, and they all just looked at me and like, "You are not alone." And they were just like, there were times when I would be like, because if we were doing convoys and there was too much traffic, I mean, that's perfect time for suicide bombers. So you got to do crowd control. Anyone sitting in the back gets out. And so one time I was in the car, and we were in a traffic jam in New York City, and I was in the car with my dad, and I was like, "I'm sick of this crap." And I get out of the car, and my dad's like, "What are you doing?" And we were on the Washington Bridge, and I was about ready to start. And then I just got back in the car, and I sat down. I'm like, don't ask me. And he was like, "What were you going to do?" And I was like, "Guide them so they can go the right way." And he's like, "Girl, this is New York. Someone's going to run you over." This is not the time. And then the only thing that kind of humorous is that those Humvees, were you always aviation?
No, I was a 45 kilo before I became a helicopter pilot.
What's that?
So I fixed tank turrets. I was with the scouts all the time.
Oh, okay, cool. Up armored Humvees.
Well, my generation, we didn't have up armored Humvees.
Okay, well, the up armored Humvees, they were heavy,
yeah.
And it was kind of like a thing. You got proud of yourself because first you have to, and then by the time I was in the middle of my tour, I could grab it and just slam that door, and I'm like, whoa, powerful woman, right? And so I remember the look on my dad's face when I got in his car and took it, went bam, and almost broke the glass. And my dad just looked at me. He's like, "Woman, I will break your teeth if you ever do that again." And I was like, "Daddy, it's the doors are really heavy in Afghanistan, and I'm so used to using all my strength." And he's like, "Why are you talking? Don't do that in my car again."
Yeah.
And it was funny because he still brings it up. He's like, this She-Hulk trying to shut my doors. And I was like, "Dad, it took me a while to get over the shutting the doors."
What did you do when you got back from that first deployment?
I used my leave for a couple months. I was trying to get into school to go back into social work because now I'm going to use my GI Bill.
Now, I want to understand this because I've never experienced it, and I'm asking due to ignorance. You guys come back from your deployments. Do y'all go through any transition training?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was going to ask. Or do they just throw you back into the civilian world and you're...
But it's kind of useless. But kind of my whole reason for my passion for what I'm trying to do.
How long was that training?
It's like a weekend. We do like a 30-day. Like the first, okay, so they first, it's like the MOB thing. They have DMOB.
Okay.
So you come back, you have a week at wherever you work. So like I had a week at Fort Bragg, and then the second tour was a week at Hood. And they do DMOB. They do like you know, the logistics, the admin stuff, and then also like make sure that you have all the information you need for if you go crazy, whatever. And then it's like you get a ticket to go back home. Wherever you're from, they get you a ticket.
So it's 1 week there, give you a ticket, you go back home, and that's it?
No, then it's 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day. You have a weekend. Like you are off drill. You don't have to go to drill weekends. But you have a 30-day event, which is 30 days after you come back. You get together with all the people that you deployed with, and you have a weekend. And it's fun, but it's also informational. They have things like, they have people talk, they have briefings, and they talk about, you know, what is life like, and how are you doing, and like how are you adjusting to your life back home now, and cool things like that. And then you also get to hang out with all your deployment buddies, you know, and they usually there's like a bar, and then we all have hotels, we get hotel rooms. So I think that we had to pay for them, or I think they're not. I think you can sign up for it and it's not, you don't have to pay for it, or you pay for it but it's like a discounted price or something. And then you have another 60-day one, and you have a 90-day one.
Okay. I just want to make sure they're checking on you, which sounds like they are.
Yeah. I feel like they're run good, but then it should be like that. No one should just be throwing you back out in the civilian world, but there's room for lots of improvement.
Yeah. So you get back, go through that process, you go to school.
Mm-hmm.
When did you find out you're going to get deployed again?
I volunteered for that one. It was a different circumstance. So, nutshell, I lived for a couple years back in this place where I bought a house with my boyfriend at the time. And like I said, I was blinded by like our relationship being very bad. Like it's just a very horrible relationship that I didn't realize that I had issues.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Plus, I grew up with issues. So like I just grew up with toxic people and crazy people. So it was almost like this is the norm. So I didn't notice.
Crazy. Real quick. I said at one of my episodes, probably the second one, that we don't realize that shit is crazy because we're around all the crazy people.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize until we start getting away from crazy to realize that shit, things aren't really normal over there. And unfortunately with you, your life, like your whole life was like that. And now you go to deployment, come back, now you're in this toxic relationship. And
no, that was fine. It's good to hear that, to hear some like when you say it like that, because sometimes people just look at me like weird, because he was very bad. Like he was a very, very bad person, never physically violent. And I am not trying to put down women that have went through that. My mom went through that. I'm not saying that. He was just verbally aggressive and disrespectful and just nasty. I mean, he called me every name all the time, constantly putting me down. And he was a upper middle class person, so he would constantly tell me that I was a peasant, that I came from trash.
Damn.
That I was like whatever, and everybody always would be like, how are you with this guy? I'm like, because he promised me a normal life. Yes, that sounds crazy, because I didn't grow up in a normal way, and we bought a house and we were gonna have babies and we were gonna be married, and I thought like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I was blinded by it, and I think that was wrong, but it was a psychological abuse. It was like the criticism from my father all the time, I'm never good enough from my mom all the time, that's what made it bad, and that's what made me have trouble in relationships, because with this guy, he would always say, if you just did this, then I'll buy you the ring. If you just did this, I'd buy you the ring. And my mom, when I grew up, my mom was like that. You're a bad daughter. You're a brat. Like, if you could just be a better person, then I would love you more.
Damn.
And so, like, I thought that's what so I kept putting up with this crap. Well, eventually I saw the sign and I left him crying in my car to a Kelly Clarkson song with just an air mattress and a puppy, because we bought everything together, but he made sure everything was in his name. And when I left him, it was like, have you ever seen What's Love Got to Do with It with Angela Bassett? I was watching that movie, and she left him and she just wanted her name. She believed in herself that much. And I was like, air mattress, my dog, you keep everything. You're that much of a disgusting human being. We made a life together for 4 years, and you won't even give me anything that we paid for together. We bought the house together. I paid mortgage. He was like, if you leave me, you get nothing. And I was like, well. And then when I was leaving, he was screaming at me, and he was like, yeah. And I remember it was so cool because it was a microphone drop moment, because he's like, I have everything and you have nothing. And then I was like, you don't have me though. Isn't that what this whole tantrum is? And then I like drove off, and I got my life together in 6 months, and that's where. So I was a squad leader with these medics in this new unit headquarters. Don't ask me. I'm pretty sure this is in Rochester, New York, and I was in headquarters, and I worked with these medics with them with through annual training for a couple of years after I came back from my first deployment. I was like, hey, I got a combat patch. Like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I was like, I instructed a lot of things. I did the CLS classes. I taught people a lot. And there was a call from my platoon sergeant. He's like, hey, the flight medic got hurt, and our unit, the aviation unit that's part of our company, needs a medic now. So any of your soldiers want to go. So I called every single soldier, and they were just like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then he's like, well, you could do it. And I was like, no. I don't think so. And then I went back, and I was working at high school, and I was sitting there, and he texted me. He's like, seriously, like, they don't have anyone. And I mean, you have experience. I told him about you. I'm like, yes, but I am not a flight medic. And where's the training going to come from? And they're just like, they'll train you when you mob. And I'm like, when are they mob? And they're like, 2 weeks from now. I'm like, guy, like 2 weeks? I got to go to Fort Hood? Like, are you serious? And so I'm like, no, stupid. And then I was just sitting there, and I remember I was watching this guy pick his nose and eat it. And I was just like looking at all the students in my class, and I'm like, and then I just took my phone and I text, okay, fine. So they, the new squad leader, he's a really cool guy. I actually gave him your information because I was like, hey, this guy's doing podcasts about aviation and stuff. And this dude is probably like, for me, he's, the godfather of, flight medics. He knows his stuff very well. He does research classes. He's been doing it since, I like to make fun of him about his age, but he's been doing it since, I'm assuming Jesus times. He's an extremely smart person. He's a firefighter in Jersey City. Just an exceptional person. I think he just recently got out. So I think he has over 20 years, and I think he's been deployed like 5 times, but I told him your information. But he was my squad leader. So my first introduction to them was this big, he's got to be like 6'5", maybe. His father was Nigerian, so he's very dark-skinned black man with a deep, deep voice. He's just all like, you need any help? And I was just like, with what? He's like, packing up your stuff, your apartment. And I'm like, thank you that someone cared. Like, I mean, I got to do this. No, I don't need any help because I have to do everything myself. So I did everything myself, left, and went down to Fort Hood. We became like almost best friends with him and a couple other people. He taught me everything. I remember and I'm not blaming that unit, but they really couldn't train me because they had to do all their training. So a lot of my stuff was like running, like, how it's like crawl, walk, run phase.
Yeah.
I had to learn all my flight medic stuff just on the fly.
So you never went to the flight medic course in Fort Rucker?
Yeah, my night goggle training, I remember, I was doing so bad in the helicopter, and this guy that was training me, this FI, was just like, when we got done with flight, he was all like, I don't understand what this. I mean, who trained you? And I was like, I don't really get trained. And it was Shoney, the guy I was telling you about it, I could say his name, squad leader. He was running to the helicopter with me, and he's just going, now put this on your head, do this, adjust it, da. And that was my class. So then when I told the FI that, he goes, oh, well, then you didn't do so bad then. And I was like, yeah. So
how did you feel being on that aircraft? Because
it was horrible.
I want everybody to understand, when you're in a Black Hawk doing medicine, conducting medevac, and just performing medical procedures in the back, it is different than being on the ground.
Yeah.
It is night and day. I mean,
it counts. And I'm not saying that ground medic doesn't, but it counts so much more. I say horrible, but what I really mean is that I don't learn so easy. I have my own issues with learning, like ADHD, dyslexic and stuff. That's what I do for a living now, working in high school with people that are neurodivergent. And so I'm slightly neurodivergent, so I understand what they're going through, but I don't learn the same way. And the Army doesn't really have like that separation. Like, you have to just learn. Correct. And if you don't learn fast, then they kind of are like, what is wrong with you? And you even get people that will treat you like you're a freaking moron. And it's like, well, I don't learn. And also, because of the explosions and suicide bombers, my first deployment, being on ICS, sometimes I would literally be like, trying to listen to the pilot, and I'm like, what? And so everybody used to make jokes that like, Bradley's always saying what? I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, I can't hear, and I have to turn the volume up a lot, and they would keep trying to change like my ear thing around, and I would still have so much trouble just really hearing them. I think I struggled the whole time with that throughout my aviation. Obviously I was in there for 2013 and I got out in 21. So that the whole rest of my Army career was aviation, and I
Yeah.
always struggled with hearing.
Did you have CEPs?
Yeah.
And still had it?
Yes, it really depended on the quality.
Yeah.
I felt like I probably should have had something a little extra in this left ear, like maybe some get an expensive thing to get it better, because some stuff, but also the helicopters. Some helicopters, I don't know if it was because they're older and they had some issues, but some helicopters I was in, I was like, I could hear everybody cool, and then there'd be times when I just couldn't. And I was like just struggling the whole time trying to understand what they're saying. But after a while, you get to understand things anyways, because especially for medics, we need the pilots to be talking. So we're really not we shouldn't really be talking to ICS in the first place, because we're going to interrupt. I mean, I've had pilots yell at me and they apologize later on. They're like, I'm so sorry. I told you to shut the F up, Bradley, but I was trying to hear tower and you're talking. And I'm like, oh, I'm talking about a person dying, but whatever.
I've yelled at plenty of people too, but not yelled. They're like, hey, I need you to cut the chatter down. I'm trying to listen to, but I get it. I get it.
Because our side is we make up our own sign language, and sometimes you have no clue what that medic is saying. Like the other medic's telling you something and you're working on the patient and you're just and they're just and you're just what? And then they're just I'm telling you to set up another bag of normal saline. I'm like, what was this? So I used to work with some people that were amazing. We had it down. I had this one medic, me and him were just we're soulmate medics, because he would do things and he'd be pointing like this, that, and I would just know exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, medics should be communicating before that anyways. They should be when they're running to helicopter, being okay, this is our 9 line, this is our patients, this is what we got. So when we get in there, you're going to get on the monitors. I'm going to check tourniquets. You're going to check the IVs. The IVs are not working. We're going to start some other ones, or we're going to, because we all knew what that meant. We're IOing them. And we had our way of doing things. But sometimes you just butt heads with a medic, and it's nothing but chaos. That happened very rarely to me, though.
Were you attached to National Guard aviation units?
Oh, yeah, we were all, and we were 4 different states. We were called Jigsaw Dust Off, because we were from our unit, our main unit. I think it's called Father Unit, or is it Mother Unit?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not National Guard? Okay. I always forget, and I swear if someone's watching us, especially if it's Shoney, he's going to be like, God, Liz, you're so dumb. But we, as the New York unit, were the main unit, and then we had New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Missouri, and we all came together and trained in Hood, and then we were a part, that was our unit. So we were all National Guard, and we were Jigsaw Dust Off when we were in Afghanistan, and we rotated to 4 different FOBs in Afghanistan. So our headquarters was Dwyer, but we were not at Dwyer all the time.
Yeah.
So we were definitely going to different FOBs.
What year were you there again?
2013.
2013. Okay. How was that experience showing up to the southern part of Afghanistan? You're a medevac now. You're not doing the ground thing anymore, which there's nothing wrong with that. Necessary. It's very necessary. But now you're part of the medevac. You're down in Kandahar. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
I felt out of place. Again, like I said, I didn't train right, so I felt very out of place. But I started to learn. It's actually funny because I had to do left seat, right seat with a unit that was leaving, and they were Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I did transfer to Tennessee eventually, and I knew the people when I transferred to Tennessee. I was like, "Hey, you did our left seat, right seat?" And one of the platoon sergeants is just like, "Who?" And I was like, "You called me Murphy's Law," and he was like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I somehow got an occlusive dressing stuck to the top the ceiling of the helicopter, because everything was stuck to me," and he was just staring at me. But he said that what he loved about it is he's like, everything that couldn't go wrong went wrong, but I still ended up getting the patient fine. And I'm like, that is my life, though. I trip over my feet all day, and I still fix everything. But he knew me. But I thought it was badass. I was like, this is what I always wanted to do. When I was in AIT, I remember I saw a flight medic. She was giving us this instructions on the Black Hawk. And when I first saw a Black Hawk, I tried to explain it to someone. And I'm like, a Black Hawk was the only comparison I can think of is what it would feel like seeing the beautiful feeling of seeing wild horses running, seeing a Black Hawk and feeling that in your chest with the rotors was just I was just in awe. And I still am, to this day, but being able to be in them, And like sometimes when I tell people that, I get annoyed that they don't understand how awesome that is. So it's like sometimes I think people don't get like, why do you bring it up so much? I'm like, you don't understand. On my dying day, I will be like, I was in Blackhawks, man. Like I did that. Like that was cool. I hung out of them too, because unfortunately, remember that whole ladder thing I said before. I'm afraid of heights, and everyone knew it and would make fun of me about it because they would like hook me. They'd be like, I'm gonna boom you out. I'm like, whoa, wait, and they'd just be like, what? I'm like, shh. Okay, let's do it. And they'd just be like, really, Bradley? And I'm like, shut up. This is what I need. And sometimes I hate when they boom me out and they would unhook me to ICS, and then I'd be just like hanging there and they're all talking and I'd just be staring at all the pilots and then the crew chief, and I'd just be thinking, I'm gonna kill every last one of you if you do not lower me right now. Like I just see the trees under my butt and I'm just like, and then finally I start getting lowered. I'm like, what was that chatter? What was the point?
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on being in the Black Hawk. I tell the story I like to tell people that can't relate. When the ground guys see us showing up, I mean, it's a feeling that you can't even describe because they know that. One thing I love about the military is, and I'm saying this from a SEER instructor because I have more information than other people, I know for a fact that our government is going to do whatever it takes to get us to come to get us and bring us home. I know this for emphatically a fact. I mean, and that's something I'll stand on to this day. It's something we take very seriously. And when I would talk to the ground guys after doing certain missions, they would come back like, man, we thank you guys for your support. And I just knew the importance of that job and just showing up. That's why it's important to always show up. Just always show up. I tell people that because it is important to somebody, right? So you get there. What's one of your most memorable missions in that 2013 deployment?
There's so many. And there's so many bad ones. It's something that's hard to talk about because most of our patients were locals. Most of our patients were kids. And that's something a lot of people can't hear. Definitely can't talk about it when I come home. I didn't talk about it for years because I was sick and tired of everything. But we had a call where we could just tell by the situation it was an execution. Just because of, we assumed that people were lined up and they were sprayed with the gun because of the height of people and their wounds. Like it was definitely straight across, but since some people were short and some people were tall, then it was, that's how it happened. And those people were left to die, even though the ground people, which were Afghan soldiers, I'm not talking about ground medics, because that's one thing when I would that blurb, like, and I was like, when you said something, I'm like, no, ground medics are the foundation of being a medic. You can't be a flight medic without being, it's like you can't build a house without a foundation. Like I'm proud of being a flight medic, but I do understand that ground medics do things. They are the foundation. But these were they were from other countries or they were locals. I don't know what was going on and if they wanted them to die. And this is very frustrating to have to say. But girls their lives are not important. And so the girls that were on our helicopters were clearly not treated. And so the bandages on them were not even saturated with blood. And so we were just like, this was put on them like the last second. This is clearly an execution. And we could just tell by the wounds. My medic and I worked on a patient, a few of them, and I was to a point where I was like, ugh. For one thing, as I squatted in a very bad, I did squats the day before, and boy, when you're in a ballistic vest, back when I was actually in shape and physically fit, is crazy. Still, leaning in that position and doing CPR, there was a part of me, like, I love life. I want to save people's lives, but I was almost like, I hate this right now. Like, woman, come back to life. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. But like, cause I was just like, oh my God, I was like in my head, I was like this little child wimp that's just going, oh my God. But like, I was going at this and I could see just like from the crew chief to the medic that we were like in a situation like this girl's going to die. We kept working on her. We had a few more in that scenario. It was a lot of females. And I don't know what the story was behind why they were killed. I don't know why they were the execution happened, or at least I think it looked execution-y, if that's a word. But when I remember when we got to Bastion in the hospital, we dropped the patients off. I remember being like, just when I took my helmet off, I was just so like, what the hell, And the other medic was like that too, and we were just like, what just happened here? Did we just come down, pick up these people that were just like executed? What are these Afghan soldiers that we're training doing? Because they didn't do anything for these girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, I swear I could have taken those bandages off the girl's legs and showed you, and it would probably have a little splash of blood on it. And I'm like, they were femoral shots. And I'm like, that should have been squirting.
Yeah.
And there should have been tourniquets on them. So, like, what was it? So it was just very hard to deal with. And then also, and I don't know the determination of it, but you don't remember Shook. You weren't ever in Shook, Ronnie?
No.
Okay. So there was a Afghan hospital called Lashkargah, I think. And so we sometimes dropped locals off there, or we brought them to Bastion. Do you know Bastion? You knew the British hospital, Bastion, right?
I
think that was the main one.
That's in Kandahar?
No. It was one of the main ones in Afghanistan, as far as I know, because I knew about Bastion for my first deployment too. It's a British hospital.
I'd have to look at that map.
Yeah, I would not. Looking at that would mean nothing to me, because it wasn't until you said RC West or East I was like, oh yeah, that's what they said. It was surprisingly enough, land nav. I whipped button always. I could moonwalk that stuff with Rangers, and people would be like, how? And I'm like, now I'm in a car with my GPS, and I'm like, where am I? So I don't know why I can do so well. But anyways, I don't know the understanding behind the Bastion and then Lashkargah, but sometimes we had to drop patients off of Lashkargah, like the locals. It was determined by higher up.
Most of the time, with my experience, it depended on who inflicted the harm.
Yes.
That's what it was. So I know for Americans, regardless if they were enemies or whatever, if we inflict that harm, we have to provide that care. Now, if a local national inflicted the harm on somebody, I know especially around 2012, 13, we had to take them to local facilities. We couldn't take care of them because we didn't cause a problem.
Yes, and I think they started that even in 2008. They were starting to move in that direction.
Correct.
But we did bring those females. We did bring them to Bastion. So I don't know why, unless it was because we were training the Afghan soldiers. I don't know what happened there. I'm still not familiar, and that situation, most of the people that were involved in that do not like to talk about it. So me talking to them about it and asking to get more of a clear understanding, it really ruined a lot of people, especially my team. That the team in that helicopter did not do well with that many girls being killed. It was like very hard for all of them. So I can't really get clarification on it, but like, we did bring them to Bastion. They died. When we came back, because we had to keep bringing more, then we ran into one of the doctors, and they just they were great at Bastion, grabbed my hand, and the other medic's hand was like, I know you guys did everything you could do. And like, I pulled away because that's when I realized she died. So I was like, right. Like, all that work and just hoping. But
how many girls would you say there was on that mission?
There were 6. I think 2 lived, because they were women, and I think that they were they were women, and they were taller.
Yeah.
Because I think they were shot here, and we were like, and some of the younger ones were shot here, so like we could tell like it was a height thing. Like, that's all I kept trying to CSI it, because in my life, especially as a medic, every time when someone gets hurt or dies, I always feel like I should have done more. So I'm always trying to figure out what it was. Like, I'm like, okay, so was it like a like, because I'm just like, the height difference, the taller you were, the more likely you were to survive. So the short ones are the ones that died.
Where do you think you got that feeling of always wanting to do more?
Probably from my family growing up, just wanting to do more, because I mean, we were so poor, and it was always like a fantasy of ours. Like, oh, someday, we're going to have food. Like, you used to think people were rich if they ordered pizza. Like, I'd be like, oh my God, you can order pizza? And I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was like that. But one thing I will say, okay, so like the whole Lashkargah thing that I did want to point out about that bothered me a lot. And that was very heartbreaking, and was very difficult. Some people can't talk about it, especially on my deployment, was that we knew that if they were a girl, especially if they were a girl, or anyone, but definitely a woman, female, they were going to die. and we could talk about it, but it's a unfortunate thing that like we would drop them off and we would see them taking the equipment that's saving their life off of them to use for someone else. And we weren't allowed to go in the hospital because
Correct.
when we did left seat, right seat, they told us that they trapped a female medic in the closet. I mean, they got her out. But like, I remember one of our crew chiefs, he's a big dude, and he was just like, no one gets off the helicopter. Like, he was so like, I will not allow my medics to be in the closet, because like, especially was a female that got trapped in there.
Crew chiefs are very, very, very passionate about their medics.
Yeah,
I mean,
sometimes.
the ones I've been around,
Yeah.
the active guys, nothing against the guard guys. I don't know you guys. I don't.
Oh,
know
they
reserve,
were definitely great.
but they're very, very protective of their medics.
Well, he knows who I'm talking about because we called him RoboCop, because like with the rotors, he'd walk with the wind kind of blowing, and he looked like a robot when he'd walk, and he was huge. And I remember one time he was mad at me about something. He was like, just get in the helicopter. And he grabbed me and I'm not a small girl. And he grabbed me by my vest and just tossed me in like I was like a piece of like little bag of apples or something. But he also was like he was always ready to go. Like he didn't play around. Like I was like, oh, we're landing. There's gunfire. Like, he's ready. Like
Yep.
he was always very ready to protect us. And so, but when we dropped them off and then we would come up, we would sometimes see that. And it was just hard to see. Like, we just see, like, the stretcher and then them taking off all the stuff and equipment off of this girl we just been working on. Sometimes boy, but definitely girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of tossing her in the ambulance, and no one's working on her, and they just go and drive away. And we're like, where is that girl going now? And it's something that a lot of the medics had a hard time. Like, that was a very hard pill to swallow, because it felt like, what are we working on all these people for? And then some of them are going to lash, and it's like, we're dropping them off and they're doing nothing for them, or they're not at least trying. They're not fighting for their life as much as we are.
Yeah.
And
I think that's where we have to truly understand the cultural differences between societies, right? And it's something I struggle with too. I've done several medevac missions, picking up little girls and just seeing it, and like you said, people just don't care about them. But one of the biggest things I try to do in medevac, and I'm not sure if you did it, I always try to keep that separation and, try to keep that line there, because it is tough, especially for the flight medics. One of my flight medics said it the best. You're seeing everybody on their worst day of their life.
That's what I say even with 911. I tell people, because they always ask me, why am I working on school? I'm like, because I was tired of seeing everybody on their worst day or their last day. And I was just like, it's too much for me. Like, it was secondary trauma, like having to see someone go through that and they're scared. And I tried to make it as helpful as possible. Like, one time I even said I was on ICS, and I said, hey, like to the other medic and the crew chief, like, let's just pull back our maxillofacial shield, like show them that we're like humans, because we are like landing, and then we have these flight helmets on. It's like, oh, like, grabbing these kids, and they would be like fighting us. And I remember this girl, I just I opened up my mouth thing, and I pulled up my visor, and I showed her, and she was touching my face, and she was like looking at me, and she was even smiling, and I was holding her hand. Now, she didn't have that bad of injuries, which is really weird that I say this because her legs were blown off. But what I mean is, she was stable. A lot of times we did not have that. Like I had to do a training in Rucker after I came back because they were like, we want these new medics going through this, flight medic training to meet a real flight medic that has been in war. And so they like made me do the whole thing of getting a call and then running to the simulation helicopter and like doing all the things. And then at the end they said, what would you change about what we did? And I said, make the patients more realistic. You gave me a guy with a gunshot wound to his abdomen. Like, we're dealing with two patients that can have triple amputations. Like, you're dealing with, like, I would tell medics, I'd be like, that helmet is also good because if you don't press this button, no one can hear you scream and cry. You can do all the things you need to do in that helmet, because these people look like like horror movies. And like, you're just sometimes kind of like, you have to like remind yourself, hemorrhage, ABCs, go back to basics, don't get all freaked out, like stop major hemorrhaging, and then airway breathing and circulation, get them hooked up to the monitors, get them the medication they need, and you are going to be in Bastion in probably 10 minutes anyway, so like, you don't really have a lot to do, and you got to do as fast as you can. But you scream, you cry, you freak out when you're in that helmet, and it's good, because unless you press that button, no one's gonna hear you. Like,
I think you said something very profound, and Adam Montalban talks about it. How people, when they're in pain, they try to grab onto you. Try to
Mm-hmm.
hold on. They need that physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to relate it is when you're watching one of those war movies and somebody's injured or about to die, and they ask them, "Just hold me." That's a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's very sad. One thing you've said that I didn't even think about it. I don't know if the other medics have done it, but you see a person's true spirit and their energy through their eyes. And by you lifting that visor and showing these kids that, you probably provided them that safe space that they needed at that time. And that's something that's very commendable because I didn't even realize that. I didn't realize that now that I think about it, it has to be done. It would be nice to be done, but I understand the separation that the medics are trying to keep as well. Because, hell, you guys are seeing a lot back there.
I didn't feel anything. And that's why when I came home from my second tour was the worst situation in my life because I disassociated. When we had those girls die, came back and I was smoking a cigarette and everybody looked like they wanted to kill themselves. And I remember almost being like, what? And we saw a lot of kids die in my first tour. And I tried to explain to people that it's always the innocent people that die.
correct.
Like it's not the jerks in the first place that are causing all the problems. It's the innocent ones, and it's the kids that don't know they're walking on a landmine. Like there's landmines or whatever. Especially as a ground medic when that kind of stuff happened, or getting hit by a car, or one time running from a firefight and these three boys ran around this Humvee when we were at my first tour. And once they saw us, they just started screaming more. And I was like, I wonder what it must have been like for them. They were just trying to get out of a firefight, and then they turned around the corner to get away from everything. And then we're all squatted behind our Humvee, and they just see these big-ass soldiers just all there with rifles. And so I remember I grabbed them and put them, tossed two of them to these soldiers, and then I had one of them that was a toddler, and he kept slapping me in the face. And I remember I was telling someone, I was like, so young, so angry, damn that rap music, because I remember getting it from Dr. Doolittle or something. And I was just like, but I got him to calm down and stuff, and he was sitting on my knee, and he was like looking through my ACOG, and I had my hand on the trigger wheel, but on the radio, my platoon sergeant was like, hey, Mary Poppins, you might want to get the kid off the rifle. And I was just like, hey, I have my hand, he's just looking at the ACOG because he thinks it's cool. He kept going, and I was like, yes, closer and stuff. So he was just interested in it, whatever. And so I just connected a lot with these kids, and then they would get hurt, die, stuff like that. So my second tour was kind of like, I'm just going to disassociate. I'm just going to disassociate. And it didn't bother me. And it was so strange that it didn't bother me, but I paid for it later.
Yeah.
So it was like, but I still had that concept because even when I did 911 in civilian side, I still to this day, I always grab people's shoulders and make eye contact with them when I'm talking to them. And I told them that it's a paramedic thing, I think, to just, when you're working with a patient, you want that human touch, but you don't want to touch someone somewhere weird. So it's a shoulder, and then it's kind of a turnaround to make eye contact. And then now, of course, in America, it's like, my name is Elizabeth, and I'm going to be your paramedic. Tell me what's going on, and I talk in a voice where it's calming and soothing and stuff like that. When I work with a kid, I always want to touch their face. Work with kids now, and I'm not doing medical, but I, know about the spectrum, so they need squeezies, so I'm always like, you need squeezies, and I get behind them and I give them a bear hug and I start squeezing, and I'm like, tell me if it's too hard, is it too hard, like that. So I still get to have that connection, and I know about that because I needed it my whole life probably. But I definitely disassociate.
How did you decompress in that second deployment?
What do you mean by decompress? In it?
So one thing I always did after a mission, if it was a bad one, I would always give my crew chiefs or my medics some time. Just go be by yourself. Go, decompress. Scream, yell, cry, whatever it is. I mean, did you have any type of coping or decompressing while you were there?
It's weirdly contradicting. I worked out a lot, prison. I always tell people I was always so fit when I came back home. People always say that because my weight fluctuates so much from military, whatever and stuff, because I would work out or I chain smoked. That was my thing. It was either or.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I'm oh, one thing's really unhealthy. And the other thing was I'd doing pull-ups, listening to techno or something. That was what I did. but I didn't feel like it was fully decompressing. I don't know. Like I'm, as much as cause I'm kind of an entertainer and I'm big on being on stage and doing a lot of different things. So people are so surprised when I say I'm an introvert, and I'm like, I'm used to being alone anyways. I'm used to wanting to be alone. Even in multiple romantic relationships, even if I live with someone, it would always be like, you need to give me a couple hours or I'm going to smack you. Like, like let me go do something. I always like tell people I would love to have a boyfriend that wants to play video games 4 times a day, because I'm just like, please, so you can leave me the heck alone. Like, I don't want to, I'm such an introvert. I'm like, so I do that anyway. So I think I've done that since I was a kid. So I don't even know if that really is decompressing or if it's just part of my personality.
What was your biggest takeaway from that deployment?
It's so many good things and so many bad things. It was beautiful. Blackhawks are beautiful. And that rush you get when you land, and then you got the chase, and then you got the Cobras, I think, the Marine helicopters.
Yeah, Cobras.
They're all like your big brothers,
Yeah.
big sisters, just like they're helping you out. And Chase is kind of like, because I have a brother that's very close in age with me. So it's kind of like that. It's like the person that's got your back, that's the closest. You could talk about your other siblings too.
Yeah.
You got Chase, and they're hovering, getting ready, just in case you need more. They need to land too for more patience. And then that right when you get, before you land, and you see the sand starting to blow out, it's like that 10-second of breathing, like, okay, shit's about ready to get down. We're gonna get down to some real stuff. And that was what life was about, living. I love doing that, and I was lucky to have the opportunity, because I know I must have annoyed a lot of people that trained me, because there was definitely people like, Liz, you are not getting this very well, but being able to be in that space and being able to do something that I knew since AIT that I would eventually want to do, and that was something that was a dream of mine for my military career, is to be a flight medic, and then being able to experience that and experience it in a combat zone is something I'm still to this day very proud of.
Should be.
Yeah, thank you. It was very beautiful to like be able to experience that. It's unfortunate that there was also the other part.
Yeah.
But that's a part of war. And I'm not saying like I'm not being heartless about this, because believe me, there's so much more about my feelings on everything. But as far as I'm concerned, we have a purpose. Soldiers have a purpose. Military is very important, just like police, just like firefighters, just like EMTs and paramedics. You can't survive without those people. And so we are so necessary. So my takeaway from my second tour was that it was a very beautiful, amazing experience that I'll share and always have in my heart for the rest of my life.
That's beautiful. You're an angel of the battlefield. Know that. Not a lot of people could say that, and that's, people in the military understand the significance of that, and I don't know if other people can, because they haven't experienced it, but me personally, I say this 1,000 times, especially on this podcast. Flight medics are my heroes. I mean, you guys are true angels, and you guys see a lot, right? You guys see a lot, but you save a lot of lives. You may lose a few in the process, but you guys are heavily protected. I don't know if you believe in God or not, whatever it is, but I believe in God. I feel God protects a lot of those flight medics out there, because the amount of stuff that I've seen these guys and gals do, and they've lived through it, and they're here telling their stories now, it's something that I'll be forever grateful to have been a part of, because, shit, we've been through things 99% of the population will never experience, all right? And it's crazy, just, once again, when we're in it, to us, it's not a big deal. When you retire, leave the Army, now you're a regular civilian, you realize, like, holy shit, what I've done in my young life is pretty profound. I don't think a lot of people understand the gravity of the situation, because what we're doing in medevac, you can't replicate that anywhere. Can't do it here in the States, right? You got light flight, they're going out there flying, but it's hard to stay in a hard stand. The enemy's not in the area, right? It's a very controlled environment. And the stuff that you've been through, you've only experienced that in a certain situation. And you can't find that anywhere unless we're at war, unfortunately. But my hat's off to you for even like doing that. When you got back from that deployment, how was life for you?
When I got back, it was bad, but like, again, I was distracted. I had a friend die in a car accident, and a place that I was going to have, an apartment I was going to have, fell through. So I kind of didn't have a place to live. And then a boyfriend that I was with, that we were also together overseas, he lied to me and he had someone back home. And so like I was like finding all that out at the same time, and I was just like really upset. But my friend dying was very painful because I found it on social media, and I was super annoyed that like someone would post it 2 hours after he died.
Damn.
I'm like, can you please have some common courtesy and wait for everyone to know about it before they have to see it? So I did get my dad to actually meet me at the airport, but I had to like kind of go, human beings want to see their family. So my dad was all like, he was like so proud of himself. He had a little balloon that said welcome home, and he was like, just see the balloon, it says welcome home, I did what you said. And I was like, yes dad, you are now a human. Like it was like whatever. But right before I saw him, I saw it on Facebook, and so I was like, and then I was trying to keep my composure around everyone because I didn't want to tell them like I just lost a friend, and then I lost a place to live, and then I lost a boyfriend, and it was kind of like just like and then I introduced myself to alcohol in the sense of drinking. Oh, I get to drink again, you know, making food and drinking wine. And all of that dissociation came rushing back. Like everything that I didn't feel, I felt the minute alcohol was in my body. And it was rough to the point where I knew I was falling apart and circling the drain, and people were worried about me, but I was not ready to deal with it. So like I actually completely shut down and wouldn't let anyone in my life, I wouldn't let friends or family talk to me. I pretty much was like not available for probably about 6 or 7 months. And then I went to paramedic school in Texas, in San Antonio. They had an Army program for the paramedic program because they were making all flight medics have to be paramedics.
Yeah, I found out about that.
Yeah, I think it was like by 2017, everyone
Correct.
had to be. So I went to that program, and that's when I started like kind of trying to get my life back together. But I still was just so like I didn't know how to get my life back together, and I did try to go to counseling. I didn't find the right counselors though.
Correct.
Like I tell people that now when I give advice, and I say, keep searching, because counselors are just like anything else.
Correct.
Like they're human, so some of them can suck, and like don't be like, okay, I guess counselors don't work. I'm like, no, that counselor didn't work. You know,
Shop around. You definitely got to shop around.
Yeah.
Did you have that moment? I know what my moment was when I was like, oh man, I gotta get help, and my life is gonna end in a way that I don't want it to end. And a lot of my friends, same situation. Did you have that moment where you're like, all right, I'm at my rock bottom, something has to give, and I need to go get help?
2021 was the worst year of my life. I mean, 2025 is not so great. Just my mom passing, but like 2021 was like a really bad year. And that's when I broke. Like I did break. It wasn't even about like having a moment. I like went insane. I had 2 people I knew from deployment died.
If you don't mind, how they die?
They died in a helicopter crash, training accident. I wasn't really close to them, but I was close enough. We were brothers and sisters in arms, you know, like we were overseas together. They were important to me. And then some people might not understand this, but I had a St. Bernard, Charlie, just my girl, just my best friend, everything to me. I had to put her down a couple of days after my 40th birthday. And so I was really in a lot of pain. And then I had this rescue dog. And I used to, if you ever read the book Wuthering Heights, if you didn't, it's okay. But there's just, it's like a tragic love story. And there's a part where Catherine is talking about her love. And she says, the truth is, I am Heathcliff. And I would always say that Wally is me. Like, I'm a rescue puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I didn't care. Some people were mad at me for taking him in because they were just like, he is kind of aggressive. Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, he's fine, because he connected with me. And I felt like we connected. And then my St. Bernard when she was still alive, and she could take him. So I was like, really, there's no danger here, you know? So like people were trying to say there was, but after Charlie got put down, I decided to have another dog, board a couple dogs. I used to be full-time dog board a couple years ago to take a break from 911. And this owner just lied about his temperament of his big, stupid pit bull. And he attacked my dog, and it turned into an hour and a half fight. And I was in it the whole time. And he ended up killing my dog. And like that whole concept of medics wanting to, like, we believe we can save lives, but like fight through heaven and hell to save a life.
You gotta believe that.
But I couldn't even save Wally, and he was already a rescue. So like I used to wrap him up in a thunder blanket and lay him down in the bed with me, and I'm like, you're safe here. And then I failed. So the whole entire house was covered in blood. The police, and I called 911. The police took the other dog away. Stupid owner's mom came, and she was taking pictures of my house and threatening to sue. And I went Jerry Springer on her. Like, there was curse words. I don't talk to an older woman like that, but man, there were some curse words in my mouth. Like, I was like, get in my house now, right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm wrapping up my dead dog in a towel, you know, and I'm just kind of like, get out of my face. Like, oh my God. But my family's not good at connecting and supporting. I told them, and they were just like, but it brought back all of that, all those times I couldn't save those people. And I all of a sudden broke. And I remember it was also kind of strange how people didn't seem to connect there was an issue. Like, I got pulled over on my way to the emergency vet because he wasn't fully dead and I thought they could save him. The police pulled me over and they were talking to me, and then animal control had to explain what was going on, and then they let me go without a ticket. He said that like I was supposed to like shake his hand. I was like, whatever. So I go to the emergency. I did a U-turn. That's why they pulled me over. But I did a U-turn where you can do a U-turn. And they were just like, well, we just think you need to be, you know, slower. And I'm like, whatever. So Wally ends up dying. My dog ends up dying. And I'm just shocked. And so I walk into this gas station because I'm going to buy cigarettes. I haven't smoked in years, but I'm like, I need a cigarette. So I go in and I'm like, hey, can I get some Camel Lights? And this lady's like, do you want me to call 911? I'm like, no, I want you to get me cigarettes. And then she's just like, and then the manager comes out and they're like, ma'am, do you need help? And I'm like, no, I need cigarettes. And then he turns me towards this mirror for these like sunglasses in this gas station. My whole entire face was covered in blood. I looked like Carrie.
Damn.
Why did the police not say anything? Like, why didn't they ask me if I was okay when they pulled me over? Why were you just giving me attitude about my U-turn? Like, it was like really strange how no one. So the whole point of this story is that I came home, smoked some cigarettes, sat right on a picnic table outside of my apartment, smoking a cigarette, looking like that, and no one asked if I was okay. I remember people walking by, no one asking. Went into my apartment, the whole place covered in blood, and I laid on the puddle of blood that my dog had died in, and I just laid there. My best friend, who is a flight medic, and she still drills up in Knoxville, I called her up and I said, you need to help me. This looks really bad. Warning you right now, and you come to this house, it's a murder scene. So we spent 10 hours cleaning up the whole entire place. I mean, I got my deposit back. I don't know how we pulled that off, but we did it. We were even making jokes because I love Wally, but we were even making videos, like pictures, and saying that we should be like, you want to clean up a murder scene? You got us. Like, well, look at what we have done. But because of that, I started falling apart, and I said that I was going to kill myself. And my family didn't even, I like literally posted on my family page and I said, I want to die. I'm going to end my life. No one responded. A week went by, not a single person responded. So I wrote back with a very angry response. What the hell is wrong with all of you?
Damn.
And my sister, she was like, well, we're not professionals. So like, they didn't know what to do, you know? And so I was like, something. So my oldest brother, and we butt heads about this because I feel like sometimes he just thinks that I'm selfish. I don't know where he gets that from, but he thinks so. I told my brother, and he just like said that like, we don't know what to do for you, and I feel like you just want attention. And
that's the wrong damn thing to say.
So I screamed at him and I said, well, I'll do it right now. I'll do it right effing now. And I got off the phone with him and I just started driving towards the bridge, and I saw me go over 100, and then I just all of a sudden realized that's not how I want to go. And I slowed back down, slowed, and then got to a shoulder and called my friend. And I just was hysterically crying. And I was like, I need to get help. Definitely can't do this anymore. And she was like, all right, let's go. So we went to the hospital and I checked in, which I'm telling you, you check into a hospital, that's where you really have to admit it.
They put you on that 6th floor?
I went into Franklin. I don't think it was the 6th floor. I don't know where that is. If that's Vanderbilt.
That's just the inside, you know.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Because someone even talks about the little sock things. They're like,
when you usually get checked into mental wards, the saying is the 6th floor. Yeah.
I think it was, in general, that's what the hospital was fully.
Okay.
But I checked in and it was very embarrassing to have to admit that I couldn't control myself anymore. Like I was gone.
Why do you think you felt embarrassed? Because that's not embarrassing.
It's embarrassing in the sense that I have taken care. I mean, deployment was hard, but I disassociate. Like I went through so much bad stuff when I was a kid. And I got through it and I fought through it. So like I just kind of felt like, plus people always tell you to suck it up. I remember a platoon sergeant said that when we came back from our second deployment. He was like, it's been 6 months, so any problems you have, you should be over it by now. And I remember looking at him like, who the hell says that?
He's probably the same guy that's getting mental health treatment now too. So
he openly admitted that years
Correct.
later. And I was like, okay. But I just was embarrassed because it was like, I can't help myself. I can't do anything. And also the way people treated me. No one wanted to hear my story. They just were like, I brought up a child dying. They'd be like, whoa, Liz, come on. Like, you know, make everybody feel bad.
Yeah.
And so even when I did outpatient training, because they like transferred me to outpatient, like I'd stay there for 10 days and then they did outpatient training. What is outpatient? It's not training. What is it? Treatment? Thank you. You did not say, I don't know why I said thank you. Maybe mentally you said it. I just decided you gave me the answer. Outpatient treatment. And when I did outpatient treatment, everyone was civilians except for this one guy who was a medic. Not medic, sorry. He was a veteran. And we made eye contact one time and we were just kind of like, yeah, we're not talking to these people about any of their crap. Because like, they were like, I'm sad because my husband's mean. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about... I talked about the dog story and people left.
Yeah.
They were like, we can't handle hearing about this. And I was like, oh, so I guess we can't talk about all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And when I took medication and like I had things to talk about, like the medications they were giving me were making me hallucinate. At one point, I was seeing my dog and one of the girls that died.
Damn.
Like awake. And I was like, but I found a good medication. I'm taking stuff that really works for me. It's kind of a miracle actually. But it took that and then I started being open with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just like, you know what? Like almost like as a joke at first. I was just like, I went to a hospital because I tried to kill myself. Woohoo! And then I was like, sometimes I get mad at people or like, oh, how depressed do you get? I'm like, I sometimes want to blow my brains out. And I would just say that because I was just trying to get people to understand that that's actually what it feels like to be suicidal. Like it's not a little sugar-coated cupcake.
Yeah.
And it was just getting on my nerves that people just don't want to hear it. And people don't want to talk about it. And I lost a friend recently that committed suicide. And I was like, his life was more together than mine, at least I thought. And when he killed himself, I was like I just can't. I can't hear this anymore. And I got to do something. And I talked to his family and I talked about, I want to start a foundation in his name to start connecting with other vets. And like, I don't think we're getting the right help we need from the outside. I think it's more
Correct.
I think that veterans need to connect with each other.
I was going to say, I don't think it's not that no one wants to hear. We're just speaking to the wrong people.
Yes. And that's true too. Cause I mean, this one, advocate for me when I was doing my benefits, I was crying through that whole situation and he was just like, I get it. And he gave me a box of tissues and he's like, I'm going to write this out to help you so you can type it because you need to explain how this is service connected. Even though I was talking about literally the helicopter and people being blown up into pieces and being in the he was like, you need to explain it this way because I know I work for they're going to go sad story. So what's going on? Like, they're not going to associate it that way.
Correct.
and he really was trying to help people, and he also really he was just really pushed for people to get their benefits. Like, he didn't play around. Like, he was like, this is what you deserve, this is what you deserve, this is what you deserve, this is what we're pushing for, this is how we're going to get it. And I ended up throwing so many people at him, and they would come back to me. I got people like buying me flowers and chocolates, being like, I've been working on this for 11 years and he's guy fixed it in 2 months. And I was like, because he cares. He knows that your story is real, but there's a specific way of wording something that the VA wants to hear to understand that it's service connected. And so many people dodge that wording. And so they'll be like, how did I go through all that and my whole body's broken and I'm still not getting the benefits I deserve? And it's like, because probably you didn't explain it like that. You didn't explain it correctly. So there are people that are out there that do listen.
Yeah.
This therapist I have now is amazing. The medication I'm on now is great, but I'm scared, you know, that I'm just going to keep running into people. Where's my next bad year, you know? And where's the next bad year for another veteran?
Yeah.
And how do we like fix that? And how do we expose it to the world for them to see it? Because what I always hear is either we're crazy, we're monsters, or just stay away from us in the first place. How do we get people to see veterans in a way, the way we deserve to be? First of all, we protect this country. So it is a little frustrating when we get looked at as like...
You mind if I give you some advice?
Sure.
I think the first thing we as veterans have to accept is I really don't care what people think about me anymore.
Mm.
This is something I learned, I would say, about 4 years ago. I don't care. Till you walk my life, till you've done the things I've done, you have no credibility in my life, right? At least off my experiences. This is from Jason. So that's number one. People want to... it's like you said, we are the true protectors of the Constitution of this country, and we're the ones that are willing to sacrifice and give up everything we have for the betterment of a country that in some cases doesn't even acknowledge us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or keep us at the same level as others. That's a whole nother topic, but that's one. I don't care what people think anymore. Mm-hmm. Two, I became a man that I love myself first. Mm-hmm. All right, and the only reason I'm alive today is because I work out and I have my service dog. And I'm very, very intentional about what I do every day, from, you know, the thoughts of putting in my mind, all these things, and it matters. And I realized for my life to change, I have to change me first. Mm-hmm. I have to change my energy. I have to change the way I think, my thought process, the people I surround myself. If you cannot bring any value to my life, you can't be in my life. Doesn't mean I don't love you. It's just you're doing more damage than good. And I don't have a long time left. So I have to make sure I live a good life for these last maybe 40, 50 years I have.
Oh, okay. When you said not a lot of time left, I'm like, are you dying?
No, I'm saying, I'm just talking about my age and, you know, life expectancy and that type of stuff. But those are the biggest things that got me through it. Surround yourself with people, like-minded people, good like-minded people. Mm-hmm. That matters. And what I would ask you to do is try not to say things like, when I'm going to have another bad year.
The only reason why I got like that, and I agree with you, because I actually am on that path, but sometimes I think I'm kind of associating it with two different things. That's my biggest fear. Yeah. But I live my life, because like that suicide thing is always in me.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, it just is. Like my friend, that wasn't his everyday thing. He was a mentor. He was like the most amazing person I've ever met. You know, there are people, I swear to God, I've been to memorials where people are like, the greatest guy in the world. And you're like, let's just admit this guy's a D-bag. Like, you know, and you're just like kind of annoyed that like everyone's saying that. But this dude was top notch. He was the best friend everyone fantasized about. And if you had him as a bestie, you knew that you had gold. And so him dying, I mean, I ripped my TV off the mount on the wall. Like I broke it in half. I was like, I can't live without you. I cannot believe you're gone. Yeah. But I know that he didn't have bad years every time. He was a great person. Like he was sunshine. Like when he would celebrate my birthdays, like we'd always just be laughing. My greatest thing was to make him laugh. Yeah. I love seeing his smile. So it's like, that's when I think that's my biggest fear. But what you're saying, I agree with fully, because that's what I had to do. I got rid of friends I've been friends with for almost 3 decades. I was like looking at people like, nope. And I have a routine too. I have a routine. Some of my stuff is like even as silly as just like I'm going to play my 90s music and I'm going to dance around. I'm doing my hair and getting ready in the morning. And I got dogs. I mean, I joke around that, you know, I'm keep getting more animals. I'm soon going to have like my wish is to be a Disney princess and have birds like, you know, dress me in the morning. Like I'm going to have, I know that my peace is more important. So I get people out of my life when they're not. But I want veterans that are in this position where they know to start helping the veterans that are not in those positions.
Correct.
And to get them there. Because
Correct.
It's not like I'm saying outside is the enemy. But it's like you need to focus on you first and let's get mentors out there. And that foundation that I want to create is because even though my friend passed, that was his legacy, is being a mentor. And I want to make that somehow happen. And since I'm in school for creative writing for TV and media, I'm writing a short script about the realities of suicide, soldier suicide and soldier mental health. And I'm creating it so that I can raise money to help create this foundation named after my friend, because like I really do believe that we all have to give our part now, because when you see those young soldiers, you're just like, and they're going through something, you're like, ugh, you know, you're just staring at them like, you know, I can't really say it's going to get better, but well, I use an analogy because I was taking acting class and people always say to me, how is it that when you do a scene, you can cry so easily? And I'm just like, cause it's in me. And I was like, you know, like the Hulk and all those Marvel movies, how they didn't understand how he could control it. And I'm like, well, it first became a problem for him and it was destroying his life. But then when he learned to control it, he was like, I'm always angry. But he turned it into something that he could make now into a new person. He had control. And so I said it's like that, except for with sadness, because I feel my PTSD manifested into sadness.
Yeah.
And so I said, it's easy for me in my art to just be in a scene and someone has talked to me about something really bad. I had a scene where my husband was telling me that we're going to kill our children so that the bad guys, because it was about the genocide in the Sudan. And he said, let's kill ourselves because we're not going to let them kill us with machetes.
Yeah.
And I had to like cry through the whole scene and everyone was like, how are you doing it? And I'm like, because I've learned to hone all those emotions and put it in my art and do it in other ways, take long walks, listen to lots of music, and stay the crap away from drama.
Yeah.
That is not my issue, and learn to do it. And also, if you need medication. I used to be anti-medication for a long time because all my medication wasn't working. And then I found a combination that worked because I had a therapist and a psychiatrist that cared, that were good people. And I found the right combination. It's a miracle for me, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you shared all those different things that you're doing, because it doesn't take one thing. It's a multiple things that, you know, get you back on track. When did you get out the Army?
2021.
How'd you feel when you got out?
Happy. And it wasn't like...
I was happy too. I ain't gonna bullshit.
I was gonna say it's like almost like a bittersweet, like if you were married to someone for like 20 years or something and you're like, we had some good moments and we had some great times and I'll never forget you. You're not welcome here anymore though. I was doing COVID and I was just, no one listened to me. And I'm like, combat, I got my patch. Like, I know what I'm doing. And they would still just be like, no. And I was just like, I remember I had a 23-year-old lieutenant telling me something. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she was like talking down to me. So I was glad, but I still am so proud of it. That's why people at my school will be like, you ain't talking about the Army. I'm like, well, if you were in something for almost 20 years, I'm going to talk about it a lot.
Yeah, talk about it. Be proud of that shit. That's something you earned and something you've gotten. What advice would you give a young soldier dealing with mental health? I know you talked about your foundation. You talked about it a lot. You said something very profound, too, about your best friend that passed away, right? Sometimes it's the ones that we never expect that we really, really have to check on. Mm-hmm. And I live by a principle. I stand on something that I want to make sure I'm a very dependable man, right? So if my kids call me, I'm coming, right? My partner calls me, I'm coming. I want people to know that when I call Jason, he's dependable, because that matters. And I live by something. Anytime my veteran friends call me, I answer. I either answer or I text them back immediately, are you okay? Mm-hmm. If they're not, I'm calling them immediately. I mean, I don't care what I'm doing. Even if we're here right now, if they call me, they know the rule of how to get a hold of me. If they were to implement that rule, I'd be like, hey, I'll be right back. I got to take this call, right? So I think it's something you said it. The ones that you think there's nothing wrong, those are the ones we really have to check on. But what advice would you give a young soldier just getting out, dealing with mental health right now?
Well, I did give advice to somebody one time, and I said, especially if it was their first, are you talking about first deployment or getting out of the Army?
Just regardless, either or.
I said, I'm a little much of a nerd, so I like Lord of the Rings, and I said, Frodo, when he went back to the Shire, he had seen too much. He couldn't be there anymore. You can't be the person you were before. And you can't allow people to want that, because friends and family will they want you to be okay. They want you to be the same person, but they don't understand you're not. And you have to be able to accept that you're not, just like you wouldn't be if you went to college. It doesn't even have to be a bad thing. You went to college, you come back, I hope you know more stuff. Like, you just got a degree. Like, you should know more things. So I would be like, you need to accept that and learn to live a new life.
Damn.
Going through something and being a different person than you are. You can't go back. And you have to be okay with vocalizing it to the people that want you to be okay and be the same person. Doesn't mean you're not going to be okay, but it's just that you're a different person, and be an advocate for yourself, and definitely get some veteran friends that can understand you, because sometimes you just need that other veteran to be like, yeah, girl or boy, I know what you're talking about. I said that to a friend, and months later he called me back and he said, you're so right. Like, he was just like, it's like, I'm Frodo and I gotta leave the Shire. Like, I'm just like looking at everything, and I'm like just looking at it like it's a movie. I'm like, this is not me anymore, and I can't do this. And everyone feels like they're examining me. Like, everyone, it's like, are you okay? Are you gonna be the same person you were? It's like, I'm a new person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I would explain it to them. Like, no, let them know the reality is, you're not the person you were before. You're a new person, and now who is that new person?
That's
and who
good.
is the healthiest version of that new person?
Yeah, that's real good. What is the happiest moment in your military career?
I mean, I can't. I don't know.
What about in life?
And I'm going to say the happiest moment in my military career, actually, to answer that, is it was AIT at some point, but then also coming back from things, that getting through the worst stuff and then coming back, and that like party attitude. Like, now I'm not talking about like going out and getting drunk at a bar. I'm talking about just everyone's like, woohoo, we're back, and then we could tell the stories and we're all laughing with each other. Those are my moments. Seeing people in helicopters for the first time, and then looking out the window, and we're doing like this different flight. The pilots are just doing like, they're showing off.
Yeah.
And then those people are just kind of like, whoa, this is cool. And you're just looking at them like, this is what it's all about. Like, this is the cool thing. So becoming a flight medic was definitely one of the best.
I'm a senior aviator. I'm a retired senior aviator. All right. There's a master aviator. That's the highest level, but I got to the senior level. But becoming a flight medic, man, I want you to really understand how significant. That's a true life achievement right there. That's some boss type moves right there. What key lessons or takeaways do you hope listeners will gain from your story?
That there are people out there that are looking out, and that it's about support. You can get through any trauma. Like, I even think statistically, what we go through is not really what makes people struggle as much as the support system that we surround ourselves with. And like you were saying, it starts with us. Like, you can't do anything. You can't blame everyone around you. You got to start it with you. So like, you got to change your routine. That whole thing with Gandhi, like, you have to be the change you want to see in the world, or Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. Like, you got to be the one that changes your situation, and then also be the one to help others. That's what I want people to get. That I'm not saying do it yourself. Like, it's like, no, do it, but also reach out for help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's. I'm glad you said that, because I want to make sure I wasn't coming across that way. For me to get to where I got to in life, I needed other people's help. Mm-hmm. I've learned this in my 40s, that I need people in my life, because I used to really think, because I grew up my younger childhood, probably to about 6th grade, very rough. All right, joined the Army, same thing. And I used to have this thing in my head that I need people, until I realized that I do need people, and that's okay. For me to get to where I want to get to in life, I'm going to need people, and that is okay. And one day I want to be that vessel for other people too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of people out there. This is why I created Heroes Have Wings. I want to create that vessel to help as many veterans as I possibly can. And I'm finding out from creating this platform, it's helping so many spouses, children, family members, because a lot of veterans don't want to tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
But they come here and they share their stories with me and everybody out there, and their families watch this and they hit me up and they're like, Jason, thank you, because my husband never would have talked about it if it wasn't for you. So I'm opening up those avenues for people, even like you. Like, your story is very, very important. There are a lot of young ladies out there that you could help. I don't know if you realize it, but there's a lot of young ladies out there that you could help.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep doing what you're doing. I think you're headed in the right direction. All right. You need any help from me, definitely let me know, because that's what I like to do. I love to help people.
Mm-hmm.
What's your biggest regret in the military to life?
Military and life,
Or
life? I would say, and this has to do with life too, but in the military, and this is something for people that are still in, we need to change the culture sometimes of the military. My biggest regret is not sticking up for myself when it was necessary. I don't want to go all the way into it because it's not the time, but I will just touch on this a little bit. Whether it's male or female, because it's not always female, but military sexual trauma. People need to start calling some people out.
Yeah.
They need to start getting people in trouble. And I know it's hard because they don't want to do it, because they know that comes with a stigma. But it's not women. I know men.
Mm-hmm.
I know men. I was part of that. I was a counselor for that. And there was men, especially my second deployment. There was a contractor that was putting people in headlock, like chokeholds, and then raping them. And he was raping men. My biggest regret in the military was that there was people that crossed lines. There was people that did stuff they shouldn't have done. And I didn't want to put that stigma on that I was a problem. And now that I look back on it and I see so many people go through it, I'm like, ugh, I wish I could tell you that I did, but I didn't. And then they kind of look at me because they think I'm the type person that I stand my ground all the time. Like, not with that, because I knew what that came with. I knew it came with pretty much, it might outcast you. It could ruin your career. And people will just look at you because the majority is like every female, there's 200 men to every female. I think it's about that statistic. But that's something that I regret a lot. And it goes with life too, is that I let people get away with a lot of stuff because I didn't want to look like, that's why they have that phrase, believe women. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be put in that position where you're a liar and you're at the part and you have to relive the trauma. But at the same time, I do regret that I didn't get people in trouble, because there are people out there now that are high up ranking people, and I know they're dirt, and I know that, and I feel bad that I let them get away with the things they did, and other people did too. And that's my biggest regret. And then also just abusing leadership. That was my biggest regret. There's so many things, like, they teach you how to get people in trouble for these things, right?
Yeah.
But you ignore it because you're like, I don't want to be that person. Like, you're just like, I don't want to be that. Oh, her, Sergeant Bradley.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to do the right thing?
Because when you do the right thing, you're going to be on your own. You will maybe you inspire some people to be brave, but it's a scary, lonely position to be in, because you'll have friends that will be like, I get what you, and I'm here for you. And then they're like pulling the curtain back because they're just like, still here. Like, because it's like, no one wants to be that person, because when you're that person, then everything you do is looked at now.
Correct.
It's like, oh, you did that. So like,
and I don't laugh at you. I'm laughing because that is, it's essentially what's happening in society right now. A lot of people don't want to do the right thing because of that. They don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be that person. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
My lesson is that I will learn to be braver when it comes to that now. That's why it's my regret, because I will learn to be braver, where I'll be like, okay, when I see a situation, what can really happen to me? What can happen to me?
Correct.
Because I think Dave Chappelle said something about being called crazy, and then he's just said, as long as I have the people that love me, I'm good. I'm good with anything that people want to think of me. Because And I think that in your 40s, you learn that who's got your back and then the people that don't, because the people that don't are out of your life. You already got rid of them. So, and yeah.
I think you already got that braveness in you.
Yes, but I feel like everyone's got their opposites.
Yeah.
Like, I think that we can be brave and then we can be total wimps.
Yeah, I get you. What legacy you want to leave behind for your friends and your family?
This is such a cheesy thing. Okay, I want to have a tattoo of it if I don't already have a million tattoos, but I love this this phrase from Hamlet where Polonius says, "To thine own self be true," and because it's like says above all else, to thine own self be true, because then whatever you do in life, you get exactly what you should get because you were always true to who you were. So like you like if you don't, your friends stop being friends with you because they don't like that you're loud. It's like me, I'm loud and ADHD, so I'm always trailing off into different things. Some people find that annoying. I'm like, well then bye.
Yeah.
And then like someone one time even said, oh, you're acquired taste. I'm like, yeah, some people don't have good taste. Like, and so my legacy is be true to yourself. You gotta accept that. And that's something that also I give a lot of credit to my mom, because one of the biggest things that happened when she passed away, I remember I was crying so hard and I yelled out loud and I said, I'm so sorry for being mad at you, for being embarrassed by some of the things you did, because I'm literally that. Like, she used to be loud and inappropriate. And I'm like, Mom, shut up. And like, now that's what I am. And my friends would be like, girl, you're so loud. And why are you talking about butts? And I'm like, okay, fine. And I'm just like, so I'm like, be yourself.
Be yourself. I learned this from a friend just recently. No, I actually learned this from my psychiatrist. She said, Jason, be busy being yourself because there's only one of you. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn, that's deep. So be yourself. I mean, you'll find your people.
You will.
You will find your people.
And
bump what everybody else got to say, man. Most of the people that are chattering are either jealous of you, mad because you're not doing the things you're doing. It's some level of hate.
Yeah.
Like people that are... For example, if you have $1 million and I'm trying to make $1 million, you're not the one talking about me. It's the people that don't have the $1 million and don't want to do the work that are doing all the chattering. Mm-hmm. Ignore them. They nothing for us in life. Mm-hmm. What's the one thing you would tell your younger self?
Okay, there'd be probably two things. One thing, I would say you're gonna have a lot of fun.
Life's fun.
I did not change much from when I was a kid. Like, I'm still a kid. Like, I'm still a kid and I love it. And then I would say to my younger self, the whole true to yourself, but like also that you can get through anything. Don't worry about tomorrow, because like you're literally going to get through it. Like you are, or you're going to die. I mean, and death, like Peter Pan said, it's going to be another adventure. We don't know what happens after death, but a lot of us believe that there's something more, and I believe there's something more.
Yeah.
And so I feel kind of like, if it's your time, it's your time. So what's the worst that can happen? I don't really know. I mean, it depends on what age, because I do stand up, and I have a stand up about that. I was like, I hate when people say like, live life and love and laugh. I'm like, am I talking to my 10-year-old self? Because if I'm talking to my 10-year-old self, I would be like, don't drink the Snapple in the refrigerator because your brothers are gross and they put something in it. Like, maybe my 16-year-old self, I would say something else, but it really depends on what age we're talking about. But definitely, I'd say you're going to have a lot of fun. And, the worst that can happen it's never what the worst that can happen. You're over-exaggerating your fears.
Yeah. You got any final thoughts?
I don't really think so. I definitely, I really love this whole thing. Thank you for like letting me be a part of a podcast that has to do with veterans. I don't even know how I fell on this thing, but when I saw it and I looked at it, I was just kind of like, I betcha he's a veteran. And I was like, I was actually trying to find out if I can talk to you about my project that I was working on. Just more like, I need to get veterans to be in on it because
Have you talked about that project already?
Just about the short film that's going to be about the statistics of stuff. I'm writing the script, and I want veterans, especially in the Nashville area, to be a part of it in any way. I'll probably be doing events to raise money, but also going to need extras. And I'd love to have veterans be extras in the film, because I really want it to be like a collection of veterans that have put this together, so that I can promote that way too, being like, hey, this was like done and created by veterans themselves, trying to give you this message to the outside world, like this is what's going on with us.
So all the veterans that are interested in helping you, how could they find you?
They'd be able to find me on Facebook. Right now, that's probably the best one. Do I say who I am from Facebook?
Yeah, it's whatever way someone has to find you, because I know there's going to be veterans in this area, including myself. We're going to be interested in supporting you.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we're able to find you to provide you that support.
So Elizabeth Hope Bradley. I would say Hope because there's a lot of Elizabeth. So if you put in Elizabeth Hope Bradley, then you'll get me. Is my picture? My picture, I think, is a picture of me with my glasses. Yep. I look just like this, except for I'm wearing glasses. Yep. I usually wear glasses. But definitely message me because I am looking for veterans. I'm trying to get this done hopefully in a year. I got some ways of raising money myself, but I'm trying to put this all together. It doesn't have to be about raising money. If you want to be a part of it, because you might have I need like uniforms. I need to know someone that knows how the military funeral goes, how it works, because it's going to be during a funeral. I don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I need a lot of help with a lot of things when I'm writing this script. It's only about 15 to 20 minutes. I actually do want to put it together, create it within the next year. So anyone that can get involved and help me out, give me some information, that would be amazing.
All right, perfect. My best advice to you, okay, is whatever you want, say it. All right. If that's exactly what you want, start putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have, and I'm learning this right now with the podcast. A lot of my buddies are hitting me up like, Jay, whatever you want, tell us exactly what you want. We'll make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Same thing with your show. I would create a timeline, like instead of maybe in a year, now next June, this is when it's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Set that hard foundation for yourself, and then start getting on Facebook and just speaking out. Hey, I need veterans to do this. I need veterans for that. Hit me up. You got my line, all right? I'll make sure if you want me to add something to the podcast, the YouTube channel, where we could find you easier, let me know. I'm here as another media source to help you get that word out. I'm going to support you as best as I can. But whatever it is you want, just ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
I live by a philosophy. Give me the opportunity to say no. Don't make that decision for me, okay?
I like that.
So just ask people. The most thing they're going to say is, let me check on it. I'll get back with you. Or no. Or definitely when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for our demographic, like of veterans, we like to get shit done. Our whole brain is about
getting it done.
Getting shit done. That's it. And
making a point. I mean, I already have this fantasy in my head, and I know it's going to be bigger than that. I already know it's going to be beautiful.
Speak life into it.
Like, yeah, I am. I mean, like, I even have contact with the family of my friends. Like, I've already asked permission about, like, the foundation that I'm trying to raise money for with this film. Like, talk to them already about, like, hey, I want to do this. So it's going to be happening. And it's great because it's also good for me to get out there to understand how to put that together, because that's my life. I'm going to be a screenwriter. I'm going to be a director. I'm going to be an actor. So
yeah, let's make it happen. And I got people I can connect. I know a lot of people here in Nashville. All right. So once again, you tell me what you need, and then I'll figure it. I'll start talking to my people to get you on track to help you out with as much as I can. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to let you know, I truly appreciate. I wish we had more time. I really do. And one thing a lot of people say is, man, Jay, I didn't think this would go by so fast.
I know, right? I was like, I've talked on the phone with my sister before, and it's been like 5 hours. I'm like, for real though? But then I'm like, it's me and my sister, so yeah.
Yeah, but I think you still have a lot left to tell. So as you're building your script, doing everything, start putting yourself out there. You have a wonderful story. A lot of people need to hear the things you've done and the impact you've had in so many people's lives. So keep it going. You're doing great. It's funny because when you first reached out to me about the podcast, it's amazing. I'm going to go to God because that's what I believe in, okay? I was sitting there one night and I was like, man, I need people for this podcast. And then you hit me up. You hit me up on Messenger, right?
Yep.
You hit me up on Messenger, and then you just told me I'm a 68 whiskey. And I just couldn't remember what it was. And I was like, what is that? You're like, I was a flight medic. And the next thing I asked you want to be on the podcast?
Yeah, I was like, it must have been some kind of thing, because I was literally, because you came up as people I may know, and I don't know how we have mutual friends, but I just saw it, and I was like, he looks like a soldier. And I was like, I need to find, and I saw you were from Nashville. I'm like, I need to find Nashville veterans to help me, especially with uniforms, because I'm so done with that kind of stuff for a funeral or for like things. So I'm like, maybe I'll just do that. And then I like looked on your page and I was like, oh, he does a podcast. And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna put myself out there. I'm just gonna go on Messenger, because I'm like, and I was like, I didn't know who was gonna ask first, who's the veteran, but I was probably going to.
No, but I'm glad you did, because now This happened, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And we had some conflicts in our schedule, and now we're here and we got it done, and I appreciate you. I truly do. I'm very impressed with your story and all the things you've done, so
Thank you.
keep it up. The biggest thing I'm proud of you about is that you did not become a victim of your circumstances. So many people allow their traumas to dictate where their life ends up, and I'm so happy that you didn't fall victim to that. And you figured out how to get past it every day, and you keep doing it. And I get it. Every day is a struggle. Every day.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I say that to people. One of the things I say to people is, well, to myself, every time when I go in that dark place, I say, I will not die from my traumas.
Let's go.
That's not going to be my story. And I'm not trying to put anyone down that has, because it is a hard road. But I'm just like, Liz, you won't die from your trauma. That's not how it's going to work.
Remember, God gives us trauma to maybe help other people. That's why I feel like I've been through all the things I've been through in life. Is there's other people out there that may not be as strong as me that I need to lift up and help them and give them that light. Everybody needs that beacon of light, or that hope, like you said in your name, right?
Yeah, like not everyone's leaders.
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Correct. But I appreciate you. I've enjoyed your time. Whatever, I sincerely mean this. Whatever you need from me, hit me up. I'll give you my number after this. We can start moving forward, getting whatever, I can start reaching out to people, because I know a lot of veterans. I know a lot of people, and I like to get shit done. That's just how my brain works. But I appreciate you, and man, it's been a good time.
Yeah.
It really has. And in closing, stay bold, stay fearless, resilience wins battles, and story shapes legacies. This is Heroes Have Wings. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. This is Elizabeth Bradley. I appreciate you. Check her out so when her story comes out, we could support her and put all the resources and assets behind you, because we will get it done. Thank you for your time. Make sure you guys continue to watch the show, share it, followers. We are growing, but I need your help to continue to grow. So make sure you spread the word, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.